not easy to become a superstar boxer beginning in the sport at age 19. Margarito has been fighting since he was a little kid. Cintron's background as a wrestler isn't necessarily enough to prepare you for what goes on in this fight. 4, 5, 6.
He's reacting. He's really hurt, Jim.
Body shot. Yep. Another body shot knockout. We've seen a series of them in recent years. This was a tremendous left-hand shot to the body. And very often, it finishes fights.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 69 of the Next Big Pod. Don't make any jokes, Dewey, please, about the number 69 in the sexual position. I'm joined by Dewey Powell of Boxing Wales for a special preview show after he betrayed us and did his own preview pod separately with far better guests. Yeah, I noticed you actually had some professionals who actually wanted to come on that show. Amazingly, we've struggled to get them on here. But anyway, yeah, so I'm here with Dewey Powell of Boxing Wales, and we might get a couple of the guys on again a bit later. Apologies about yesterday, but no one could make it in the end. And we were all just feeling bummed out by the Fury news. But we'll kick off with a review of the weekend, as always. Anthony Crolla obviously losing a unanimous decision to Jorge Linares, losing the WBA belt, but obviously not the WBC because it wasn't a unification, as we all know. Dewey, I know you didn't go, did you, to the fight? I know a few of the guys did, but it's a shame they couldn't be on.
Yeah, I was there.
Did you go?
I was there. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry. Well, yeah. Go ahead. What was the atmosphere like, and what did you think of the fight?
I thought the atmosphere was quite good. I've been to quite a few big fights at the MEN. I think the worst atmosphere would be Amir Khan against Paul McCloskey. It was amazing to start, but then when obviously the different levels, when it transpired that they were completely different levels, it really died down, and it was really good for Frampton Quigg, and this was probably somewhere in between. There were some of the middle rounds. I thought the crowd really lulled. I think Crolla had a 5 or 6 that lifted the crowds, but after that, until like the final 2 rounds, it did die down a bit. But I think Crolla's it's not a massive fan base, but it's a very solid fan base. They said there was about 12,000 there, and there probably was. The first tier was fairly full, and there was probably about a quarter or a third of the top tier open. As for the fight, I scored 8 Linares. I could maybe change that to 9. I think there was 1 swing round I gave to Crolla, but I don't think I could go.
You cut out a little bit there. Did you say 8-4 your card?
Yeah, 8-4 to Crolla. There was 1 swing round that I gave to Crolla, so I could have a 9-3. I couldn't make a case for having any closer 7-5 or anything like that. Nonetheless, though, I do think, apart from the round, well, saying that, even the round where Crolla got rocked, that was still competitive for the most part. I thoroughly enjoyed the fight. Just to explain how I scored, I give Linares the first 3, Crolla the 4th and the 5th, and then Linares, I thought he had a really good spell of rounds, and the last 4 rounds I thought were quite even. Thoroughly enjoyable fight. I know lots of people don't want to see a rematch, but I wouldn't mind seeing a rematch. I think Anthony Crolla didn't disgrace himself. Remains, in my opinion, probably top 5, certainly top 10 lightweights in the world. They can't claim it as
proved he could be competitive
1 and 2
guys, didn't he?
Yeah, but they can't claim it as this is number 1 and 2 anymore. But it's it's still a good fight. Maybe it's a sad state that boxing's in, but we don't often see 2 top 10 guys in any division fight each other. Sometimes we can read. We have to wait, and we might get 1 matchup like that per division in a year. It doesn't often. I'm just trying to think off the top of my head. Say welterweight, you'd have Thurman and Porter. Cruiserweight, we've just had Usyk and Glowacki, but it does, that's where you get top 10 guys fighting each other. consistently.
It's only at the tiny weights, isn't it? I mean, Gonzalez against Quadras was obviously. I mean, Gonzalez wasn't ranked. He was clearly he would have been in the top 5 in that division had he been fought there before. And that I suppose you could argue, especially if they do a rematch of that, you could argue that's 1 and 2 in the division. But yeah, I agree with you. It's very rare. Just before I'm interested in the fact that you think a rematch would be worthwhile. Just to bring Ainsley in for a sec. Ainsley's joined us as well. Before I do, I had it 9-3 Linares. I watched it with my dad and his fiance and my wife, none of who follow boxing at all. But he had seen Crolla on the news, which I guess shows you that Crolla does have a kind of mainstream presence, I suppose. But they very early on they were complimenting the guy in the black shorts and saying, "Oh, he looks much stronger and he looks like his punches are doing more damage." And I said, I think I predicted it would go. I think we all did. We predicted either Linares points or possibly a late stoppage either way. But we both thought it would go. It would sort of heat up as it went. And I was quite surprised after about 8 rounds. Linares sort of went into cruise control, I felt, but in a good way. He was just completely comfortable, and Crolla didn't seem to have the energy after he got hurt in the 6th round, I think it was. But yeah, I had it 9-3 as well. I could have seen 8-4, no closer than that. The 1 point was a joke of a card. The 7-5 was a bad card as well, to be honest. Way too close. They gave Crolla, a couple of the judges I noticed gave Crolla the majority of the first 5 rounds. I think they gave him either 3 or 4 of the first 5. And that's a bad card, I think. I thought Linares started really well, knowing that he needed to get a fast start, I think, to sort of set Crolla behind. Ainsley, mate, you were there as well. What was the atmosphere like? And
it was all right. I think I said to do it after about 4 rounds, saying that Crolla fans are the biggest casuals in England, and then he politely reminded me that no, Josh Warrington fans are, but Crolla fans can take an honourable 2nd place for that. But no, it was a good fight.
I've got to say though, we were surrounded by some complete plums.
Yeah, I want to just give a shout out to the 5 people in front. One guy who took it upon himself to be like the group leader, who was shouting just as the national anthems are coming on, "Sing your fucking heart out, lads!" But you weren't even Cockney, so I don't know why I've done that. But anyway, yeah, that was a bit of a strange one. But yeah, the fight was decent. As you said, it sort of panned out how most people expected. The one card that Hearn has apparently complained about was the only card that I would say is acceptable of the 3. Crolla didn't win any more than 4 rounds. I think 4 rounds might be slightly generous, but...
Can I ask, how did you guys score the last 3 rounds? Because I noticed that, I again, Dewey, I was agreed with you. I thought that Linares was kind of coasting a bit, and those rounds kind of could have gone either way. I think I gave 2 of them to Linares, but I thought they were quite close. All 3 judges gave the final 3 rounds to Linares, which obviously won in the... So it was interesting the way they saw it, because I thought he started to do... There was a bit of a De La Hoya Trinidad, obviously on a much lower level, where Linares was visibly running a little bit, because I think he felt he had the fight in the bag at that point. How did you guys score those last 3?
I gave him 2 of the last 3.
I think I gave the 11th and the 10th and the 12th to Linares, but the 12th was quite close. From what I remember, I've not watched it back.
And you were shit-faced at the time, obviously.
No, I was driving.
Driving drunk. Terrible. Let's so right, Ainsley. Just before Dewey goes off on one with his crazy rematch theory, would you watch a rematch? Do you think it's worthwhile?
I would watch it, but I don't think there should be one, because it was a clear victory. There's no need for it, but it was a decent fight. So yeah, it would be decent, and I like I'd probably go again if it happened. Obviously it'd be in Manchester.
I think I'm in the same boat, mate. I wouldn't have a problem with a rematch, but equally, I would, in an ideal world, Zlatikanen would fight Linares, wouldn't they, to see who WBC.
If he's fighting, if Zlati's fighting Garcia, and that's just making it awkward for the interim period, I don't mind it. But it's just a bit of an annoyance, like the arrogance of her now.
It was a bit annoying the way they were acting as if there was some sort of injustice. I didn't think there was any injustice at all. The cards were the wrong guy won. I haven't seen a single person score that for Crolla at all.
Like I said,
same here, but it it doesn't really matter if there was an injustice or not, though. If they've got it in a contract, Linares has agreed to it beforehand, so he saw the contract he signed.
Oh yeah, that's fine. But what Hearner's been sort of saying to people is he's trying to get it off his back now, and he's sort of saying, "Oh, the WBA mandating it, blah 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 blah." But if that's the case, it's bullshit. But no, I just find it hilarious how he's complaining about the one card. It's just so insincere. Like,
yeah, I don't think anyone buys it really, to be honest, because even the casual.
Crolla didn't celebrate.
No, Crolla didn't.
Sorry,
Crolla
didn't celebrate at all on the final bell.
No, and Gallagher didn't either, did he? Like, no one was being carried around the ring or anything like that.
But what I noticed,
sorry, Ed, just before you go, was anyone in your section like shocked by Linares getting the decision?
The fellas in the row behind were, I think it was like one round left, and they were like, "Oh yeah, he's 2 or 3 up." Obviously, meaning Crolla, but they're Anthony Crolla fans and not necessarily boxing fans.
Yeah, Manchester sort of let itself down on Saturday because generally the people got to watch boxing in Manchester. Previously, I have thought they actually knew a bit what they're on about, but Saturday was a fucking farce.
I've got to say though, I despise Man U as well, so it was a bit difficult to endure. But there were loads of Man U football songs.
Yeah, I don't like that.
So I think Crolla played that angle, doesn't he, quite well. Dewey, I was going to say, I know what you mean about. It always amazes me at boxing shows how guys who've shown up to cheer for one specific person can literally they find the funniest stuff to justify that person winning. I will never forget at the Kelbrook Gavin show last year when Mitchell got knocked out by Linares. I had a group of Cockneys right behind me, and one of them just said when it got waved off, he went, "I can't believe Kev's been knocked out." And I just thought, what? Have you never seen Mitchell fight before, for fuck's sake? He gets knocked out every time he fights at world level. But this guy genuinely thought, he sounded as if a knockout was the last thing he expected in the world in that fight. It was really funny. And
Mitchell actually...
sorry, yeah.
Oh, yeah, Mitchell actually, because me and Carpy are big names, he decided to have a chat with us. He was telling us about the Linares fight. Carpy sort of, for the 1 or 2 words that he said in the entire day for Saturday, asked him why he fucked it off after Linares. And what he sort of said is basically like fighters generally will have like one night where everything sort of slots together for him. He says that was his night against Linares, but he got fucked over, he feels a little bit. And then he just says he couldn't be arsed after that.
Just for the listeners,
I can remember
there is proof that Carpy and Ainsley did meet Mitchell because I've seen a picture. I don't know if the anecdotes are true. I'm sure Kev would never have been getting drunk before a Sky show. He's a professional. It is true that you guys did meet him. It's interesting that he feels, he really feels he got kind of jobbed and the stoppage was premature.
What he said is, and I've not really paid attention, but he said that a lot of stuff that was happening. So when he was up close with Linares, after he'd been cut, it's like on the referee's blind side, he was like he was digging his head in, and he was like, make it a lot worse. And he said he wasn't really complaining about it, but he was just saying he thought it should have been that, but he wasn't like, oh, it's the world against me sort of thing.
I think you see that at a lot of world level, though, don't you? I never forget, if you ever hear Paulie talk about the Cotto fight, he says Cotto was phenomenally good at kind of roughing him up on the inside and kind of digging his, sort of punching him on the hip and like digging his head in and all the rest of it. None of it's necessarily illegal. It's kind of being streetwise in the ring, isn't it? I guess. And Linares, I think, showed in the 2 occasions he's been over here. Great fighter, but I think he's matured a lot, kind of mentally, in terms of the way he held it together. Because it was a pretty intimidating atmosphere for the first few rounds, wasn't it? I mean, they were very, very pro Crolla, and you had all the nonsense of the low blows. Dewey, did you think any of those were low from where you were?
From where we were sat, they did, and they showed them on the replay, and they showed the first 2 on the replay on the screens above the ring. And they both looked like they were quite literally on the bell. And Crolla's shorts weren't, they weren't up to his chest, but they were higher than his waist. And they hit the waistband. I think they might have been to the bottom of his stomach, but I didn't think they were anywhere near his knob. I thought that Crolla was playing the game and trying to play the ref. There's nothing wrong with that. In my opinion, you see what the ref lets you get away with. Every fighter does it. But he was a bit blatant with it, and he had 12,000 people also screaming that he was fouled.
Well,
before you jump in on it, I've got a conspiracy theory for you. Do you think the low blow, sort of making the referee, making the most of every low blow, appealing to the ref, do you think that was a deliberate tactic with Gallagher and Crolla before they went out?
I can't quote this, but someone sent me a tweet basically saying that Gallagher had said between one of the rounds, you need to basically along the lines of, if he hits you anywhere near that belt line, you need to make the ref aware of it. So,
yeah, indeed, that's what I think it was a case of. I don't think it was a premeditated thing. I think they might have done it during the fight,
but
rather than beforehand.
I think the obvious thing coming out of Saturday night is that Terry O'Connor is firmly in the pocket of Eddie Hearn.
Well, I think
he's not fit the referee. I've seen him badly referee fights for all sorts of promoters. He's just not physically fit to referee. He's so out of position when there are fouls or when there are debatable incidents. He's never in position to see them. I know he has done a bit of weight recently. Good luck to him, but he's still not physically fit to referee.
I'm talking more about that card. It's coupled with that and that card that he put in for the John Ryder fight. But
I was going to say shocking cards before. Terry O'Connor was the ref who was a judge. Sorry, who scored the belly rematch to Cleverly somehow. Not even I could do that. That was. And you could argue that Tony's a moneymaker out of them too. So
exactly. I mean, the house was clearly with Belly that night, wasn't it? So you think if he's scoring it for Cleverly, then he's probably not. It's more a case of incompetence than it is corruption, I think.
But then, do we just look at the Cleverly one and say it's a case where you have the one judge who puts in that card to try and play for the rematch?
No. I don't think. I think if we're going down the rabbit hole that much, it's sort of never ending in terms of the possible double bluffs and triple bluffs and all the rest of it. I just think I agree with Dewey completely. He's a bad referee who's never in the right position. That final low blow when it seemed they were maybe going to take a point off Linares, Crolla had his back to the camera, didn't he? So the camera couldn't see it. It was right in the corner, so the crowd couldn't really see it. They were fighting at really close range. And O'Connor was directly behind Linares, halfway across the ring. There's no way he could have seen it. And I just think in sports like football, you would never see a referee give a penalty when he was looking the other way. It just wouldn't happen. It would have happened 20 years ago. Captain could have had enough sway to sort of go over and say, "Oh no, honest, it was a penalty." But that was purely he refereed Crolla's reaction rather than the actual foul, and that's just incompetence, plain and simple. But Andy, moving on. Because it was. Look, we'll be positive. It was a good fight. It was fun. It wasn't amazing. I thought it might have potential to really catch fire. But I think it maybe makes Mitchell's performance look a little bit better in hindsight, perhaps.
Yeah. Well, two things.
I don't know.
Go on, Dewey.
I was more impressed by Crolla's performance. I didn't think Mitchell Linares. I read that fight very differently to a lot of other people. I didn't think that. Linares was after that fifth round knockdown. He was ever in massive danger of losing that fight. Whereas the Crolla fight, you could argue that you definitely on the cards that it took Linares to step it up a gear in the last 4 rounds, or at least on the judges' scorecards to take it out. Or on the whole, I was more impressed by Crolla than Mitchell.
Yeah, but if we look at the cards, then we could say, Mitchell got the first 8 rounds on one of them.
Yeah,
on both fights as being a shit card, but I think when Linares the
Mitchell card was worse, to be honest. Yeah. That's the worst of the bunch, I think.
But when Linares hurt Crolla, he's obviously hurt his hand. If he didn't hurt his hand, he'd have stopped Crolla.
He absolutely banjoed him in the 6th round, didn't he?
Yeah, that's what I mean. And he hurt his hand in the 6th, and it does look fucked. But if they do have a rematch, my money's on the stoppage.
Yeah, let's expand that a little bit because obviously Linares is a good body puncher. he really wore Mitchell down, I felt, with the body shots. And that's what led to Mitchell, not being able to get away from him at all. His legs really died after about 8 rounds of that fight. Crolla kept moving. He kept sort of buzzing away. But do we think if he hadn't hurt his hand, and B, if the referee had allowed him to work the body properly, do we think that there might have been a stoppage there? Because he was hurting Crolla, I felt.
Yeah.
Crolla did very well, didn't he, to get through it? But you could maybe argue that that was with the benefit of the referee helping him out at certain times in a fight. But when he got buzzed at the end of the 6, I thought he tried to back off, realised that Linares wasn't going to leave him alone, went to the ropes just to help steady himself. He did throw 1 or 2 shots back to keep the referee, from jumping in. Not that I think he would have jumped in, but just to eliminate that danger. I thought Crolla handled that quite well, because even when he was walking towards his corner after the bell had sounded, he was still on rubber legs.
He was really wobbly, wasn't he? I'd actually got up to get a drink, and I came back as he got hurt. And I thought the punch landed above his ear, and it was kind of maybe a balance shot where he recovered quite quickly. It wasn't. He didn't get sort of clocked on the chin, did he? And I thought, he'll be all right. He'll be all right. And he survived the rally. He'll be fine. And then when he got up at the start of the next round, I thought he was still wobbly. Then, like, his legs were still stiff, and it was.
I think he said after the fight, Chap, that he said words to the effect of, I'm still feeling that shot now. So, it obviously was a good shot. I've got to say, technically, I've been lucky to see Regondo this year. Obviously, that was quite short, his fight with Jazza Dickens in Cardiff. But I think technically, watching Linares, that's two times I've seen him in the flesh now. I absolutely love watching him. I think he's so skillful. And there is that vulnerability. I thought less so in the Crolla fight, but just technically, you can't help but enjoy him. There's little things he does that just stopping Crolla in his tracks is like a jab to the stomach. No, jab to the head, jab to the stomach.
His double jab was lovely. He worked that really well, didn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, it just interrupted Crolla's approach. And you know how I talked last week, how I think Crolla's got a similar style to some of the other guys in his gym, but he's a bit more active on his way in. He almost gets that bobbing rhythm. Every time that bobbing rhythm would go up, and then he'd land on his feet, so both his feet would be flat for a split second, Linares would just disrupt him and just jab him and make him reset his feet. I thought that was a really clever tactic. And he kind of timed that approach from Crolla after about 3 or 4 rounds, so he settled that down quite early.
Yeah, so Crolla was having to work really hard to cut the distance, wasn't he, after by the sort of mid-rounds. Yeah, I agree with you. I think Emmanuel Stewart said once when he was talking about Linares sort of back in the day when he was really hyped up, he said that his form was the best he'd seen in 25 years or something. And obviously we know that Stewart used to get a bit carried away. Like he always said, Andy Lee was the greatest middleweight of all time and all the rest of it. But he genuinely said, forget about Linares' skin and about his chin and all that other stuff. Just purely talking on like his stance, the way his balance is distributed, the way, like you say, he can mix up his shots, the way he spins his opponents. That's all kind of. It really reminds. I mean, it sounds ridiculous, but he looks like Sugar Ray Leonard at times in there. The way he can just sort of dance around opponents, and you see it a bit with Lomachenko. But it's he's fantastic to watch. And I'm annoyed that I didn't end up going. Well, go on. Yeah,
he's balanced as well. There were times in the fight where, say, he'd throw his backhand, his right hand. If he leant over and his weight was on his front foot and he missed, he would just dip low to come back with his left hook. And there was just little instances like that where it almost looks like he switched it in, but he's just so well balanced.
Yeah, and exactly. He's never. I don't know how to word this exactly. He's never surprised kind of what his own body does. Do you know what I mean? If he misses a punch or whatever, he's incredibly good at reacting to it in the moment and redistributing his weight and all the rest of it. You never see him kind of flinging shots and sort of falling off balance or anything like that. And even I thought when he had Crolla hurt, and it was the same in the Mitchell fight, when he had Mitchell hurt late on, his ability to kind of pace, he would throwing 12 punches in a combination, but his distance would be excellent the entire time. He'd never smother his own work. He'd be mixing his shots. He never gets carried away, and he used to really think his way through every fight. We've been joined by Carby as well, everyone listening. I don't know how he got the link, to be honest. But Carby, Ainsley was saying you had a nice chat with Kevin Mitchell, one of your favourite fighters, on Saturday night.
Great chat. Kev's a good guy, really. Can't fault him.
Yeah, he likes me and Carl, but we didn't tell him. We didn't tell him that he blocked us because we were told in uncertain terms not to bother. But it was a bad moment in there when Corpy was still dying, basically with his head in his hands. But both of us had their backs to the entire room, and I was starting to think we're going to fucking cop phone in a minute.
Yeah, blocked by half a minute there as well. Quigg was walking around. I was like, fucking hell.
Asking for Brian.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard.
Yeah.
It's very strange that he's using Brian's name like he used Frampton's, isn't he? Yeah. Right. Anyway, Sam, unless you've got anything you want to say about the Linares Crolla fight, how did you score it, mate? Just quickly, and then
I watched it 3 times. I watched it once and I was live in there, but I was sort of dying then, so I didn't really take much notes of it. I was watching it, but not really comprehending what was going on. But the 2 times I watched it, I've scored it 9-3 both times. It was just a class apart, really, between Linares and Crolla. There's no shame in Crolla losing to Linares, obviously, because what was it, 3 years ago he's losing to Gary Sykes in a prize fighter. So it's just levels to the game, innit? He couldn't break him down. That was the only way. We all said no shame in getting out
by Linares, like you say. It's not like he was a paper champion, you know. It's not like Stephen Smith getting schooled by Pedraza, who's the worst champion in the division. Linares is arguably the best guy in that division. I'd say it's him or Garcia. Hopefully we get to see that fight. But
I thought there might have been some frustration creeping into Crolla. Maybe that's why he was getting a bit annoyed with the body shots and whinging a bit, because he knew that he couldn't break him down and he was never going to outbox him.
I think
maybe it was frustration.
It looked to me like he realised quite early on that the same old tactics weren't going to work against this guy.
I do want to say, like in the 3 weeks, all the British fighters, I gained a bit of respect for Liam Smith. I gained a lot of respect for Kell Brook, but I lost respect for Crolla in the way he was acting during the fight, like moaning about the body shots that were perfectly legal. I've always thought quite highly of Crolla because, like, I don't know if he's a nice guy, but everyone says he is, so you take their word for it. But he was acting like a little cunt during that fight, to be fair.
I think, to Crolla's credit, I haven't heard him say like, "Oh, I won the fight," or "Oh, it should have been a draw." He's accepted that he lost.
He did say, and this annoyed me a bit, that he was up until the sixth round, when he obviously got buzzed quite hard, that was when the fight fell away from him. But I think you got hit by a shot. It's not you didn't get injured or nothing.
Yeah, but he's probably right. I mean, he was applying a lot more pressure to Linares. Linares was having to work a lot more until he hurt him. Do you think?
Linares hurt his hand as well. He's never mentioned that once, has he?
That's true.
He won, that's why.
But I mean, like, saying that, I was doing well until I got hurt is basically, what's the point of you in saying that? Just don't say it. That doesn't need to be said. It's
that line of defense only works if you get like a freak cut or something. Yeah. Or
if your knee gives way or something. Something that probably hampers you that is not caused from a shot.
Accident. Yeah.
Another thing I want to say is only one of them scorecards should be, or judges should be reported, and it's not the 117, 111 judge. It's the 115, 114 British judge. How you can get that score watching that fight?
Yeah, that was bad.
Amazes me.
I think he gave 5 of the first 6 to Crolla, which is just a shocker.
Linares needed to win the last 2 rounds to win the fight on his card. What the fuck is he watching?
I put a 5 on the draw with 4 rounds to go. I think I got like 12-1 on it because I just said if Crolla can turn. I thought Crolla would turn it up in the last 3 rounds and maybe make them close. And I thought if Crolla can make this close, they could rob Linares here. And you know, it ended up being that Crolla didn't win a single one of like the last 5, which is very, very odd. But
I thought they'd robbed him when they put the cards out. To be honest.
Andy, sorry, I thought it's all set up for a split. You know, a weird split decision. When they said 117, 111, I went, okay, well that can't be Crolla. And then I thought you were going to say overruled by the other 2 who gave it 115, 114 to the local fighter. Yeah, I was really on the edge of my seat. Go on.
One thing that we thought was really interested in the arena with this 4G signal is really intermittent. Ainsley found the odds on his phone that Linares was either 5-6 or evens to win after 10 rounds.
It was 13-10, so he was just a bit better than evens.
Yeah, well, that's free money. We were both desperately trying to bet on it, but just the signal wouldn't let us because we had him, by that stage 2 or 3 points up, and then obviously, I had him winning one of the last 2 rounds as well. So
Did you know? You guys might not have heard it because you were obviously in the stadium, but during round 10, Adam Smith said, "I've got it close. Carl, how have you got it?" Froch goes, "I've got Linares just ahead, but it's really close." And then they cut to Paulie, and he sounded really bored, and he went, "I've got Linares like 6 points up," like as if, why are you trying to pretend that this is close? And yeah, I was the same. To me, I thought Linares is clearly winning this, but if Crolla can finish well, that's the justification for the robbery. I'm raging because I had the triple of, I had a Burton KO, Ryder decision, and then a Linares decision. I got 20-1 on it, and I'm absolutely raging that Ryder lost. I didn't watch that fight. I'm not going to watch it back because it sounds shit.
It wasn't a good fight.
But apparently, you guys watched it. What the scoring sounded a little bit off to me.
Well, there was right. So to put it, there were some weird cards, but between the free cards, Ryder won 10 rounds on the free cards. You can argue that he should have had 8 or 9 on each card.
So you had him winning quite widely.
Oh, yeah, he won it. He wasn't brilliant, and he could have done a lot more, but he didn't deserve to lose. I thought he was pouring at his eye after about 5 or 6 rounds, but we saw him after, so I asked him. He says, "No, I didn't. There's nothing wrong with his eye. It's just must have been a subconscious thing." But fuck knows, Armfield was throwing punches for the sake of it. After the fight,
Armfield got 14-1 before that fight.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Armfield was stood there.
Armfield on points.
Sorry, David, say again.
I had I can't remember who told me that Ryder wasn't great at the weight even the day of the fight. And when I had a look, Armfield was 7-1 to win on points, so I had a cheeky fiver on that. I wish I put more on.
But that was about, apparently.
Ryder. I mean, he's not. You know, I do think there's to an extent, and I really don't want to spend too much time on this because it's a fairly meaning British level fight. But I feel like Ryder does fight up or down to his opponents to an extent.
But so there was a lot of discussion back after the fight about what had happened. But Ryder didn't really seem too bothered, to be honest. He was just like, well, whatever.
I don't think he's nasty enough. There's just his whole body language doesn't look like someone who really wants it.
I think it's been trained out of him, though, to some extent.
Yeah,
I said, well, me and Mark McFarlane were slagging off Tony Sims, and then I turned to my left, and Tony Sims were about 5 yards away. So I shut up and tried fucking signalling to Mark to be quiet, and he carried on. So I just thought, oh, fuck it. But yeah.
He does seem like a guy who's just kind of on autopilot when he's in the ring. Like he's pretty good, and he's good enough to beat a few people, but he doesn't seem like he just seems like he goes through the motions. I agree with you.
But I think he's been trained out of him. I think, but what do I know?
Sure, I had him winning handily, 4 or 5 rounds. But I was saying to Carpy and Ainsley during the fight. Well, during the last 2 rounds, I was like, he's let Ryder right back into this. This is going to be a lot closer than we all think. I still thought Ryder was going to win it, but his whole body language completely betrays what he does. He doesn't look like he wants to be there.
Yeah.
He does half the work. He evades shots. Lovely. He can slip and slide, just move to the sides. And I think his movement is fantastic. But when he follows that up with 5 feints and 1 jab, the judges are not going to like it. I thought it was almost his own fault that he lost. And we can all point fingers at Tony Sims because not a lot of us really rate him as a trainer. But there comes a point where you've got to look at the fighter and think, come on, your attitude doesn't look like you want to win this fight. And one thing you say about Armfield, he might be a lot more limited than Ryder, but he did constantly just push out punches. They weren't big punches, but quite a few of them did land.
Yeah, and you could see it. He really wanted to win, didn't he? Like, it meant a lot to him to win that.
But, like, the thing that I was saying, and he looked so fucking and this is another thing that I forgot to mention with the Crolla fight, but I'll say that after I've made my point. So Armfield went from looking like, I'll use what I said to everyone on Saturday night, he went from looking like he'd lost his dog to like he won the lottery in about 15 seconds. And that was because someone walked over to the corner, seen the cards and fucking told him. Because he didn't think for a fucking second he won that fight. He can say what he wants after, but it fucking happened with Gallagher as well. Gallagher went over, him and Aaron seen the cards and told him. They need to stop him doing that.
Yeah.
Because, right, and they can't, but I mean, just don't let them see it.
say you have to, I remember the Gavin Bundu as well, wasn't it? They figured out about 30 seconds before they were announced. Gavin suddenly looked like furious because he knew he'd lost.
The problem is, it's not the board officials telling them the scores. After the board fill out their form and calculate the scores, they hand it to the MC. The MC is an employee of the promoter, at least on a, or a contractor, for that night. So they're not going to tell their employee, no, you can't look at my scores, these are just for me.
But I mean,
it's a practicality thing, isn't it?
Well, I know what you mean. It makes it sound a bit amateurish, and when the fighters and the trainers clearly know what's going on before the crowd, it is a bit shit. You like it when there's genuine suspense.
But you can see, when you can see it, because that's what I mean. I was like looking at it, and you can just see people's body language has changed. It's just like, for fuck's sake. But like, I don't know. But like Armfield, and this was the last point I'm going to make, so Armfield was throwing punches for the sake of it. And I swear that's just a British thing now, where people just throw punches regardless, just to make it look like they're doing something when they're not.
I think that's usually technically flawed people, though, isn't it? When they can't set up shots or they can't set traps, they just throw.
But that's what they do. They throw like 5 jabs in a row, one of them a day, and it's just like, well, why are you doing that?
Because he's not that good.
Ryder would, go to throw 5 punches and not throw them. So it wouldn't, obviously it wouldn't work against someone a bit better. But Ryder, I thought it was kind of his own fault. I won't repeat myself. I just thought he completely let Armfield back into that fight.
Yeah. But the important thing is, he didn't lose the fight. But Ryder didn't lose to Armfield, and it does feed what everyone's been saying about Hearn not liking Ryder. And the fact that
forget Hearn. Let's talk about good fights instead of Hearn, because we can slag Hearn off all day. Hearn's lost like 5 fights in 5 weeks. He's done. He's going to be out of the game soon. Don't worry.
Stephen Smith against Sosa, that could be another bad one for him.
Well, I think he'd have to travel for that, wouldn't he?
No, he's Monaco. So they're sort of both travelling, which is a strange.
Not a bad fight. Sosa can punch a bit though, and we know that Stephen Smith's been hurt before.
That is actually a close fight.
It would actually be quite fun. And Sosa's quite big at the weight as well. I remember Walters was obviously much taller than him, but he didn't dwarf Walters. Walters didn't dwarf him the way Walters dwarfed everyone else. Speaking of Walters, today, Lomachenko Walters was announced for the 20. Let me get the date up. 26th of November.
Yeah.
And they're also apparently in deep discussions for Salido versus Miura this winter as well, which I've been calling for about 6 months and saying that's the best fight in boxing that you can make in terms of pure action. Hopefully those two could be on the same card. That would be an amazing World Championship boxing for HBO. It would really finish the year off well, and then obviously the winners could fight each other, or the winner of Salido Miura can fight Vargas next year when he's healed. And maybe the winner of Lomachenko against Walters could go after a unification or something. But I think those are 2 really good fights, and hopefully Salido Miura happens. Lomachenko Walters will be great. I've again been saying for a long time I think Walters is very overrated, and I expect Lomachenko to school him in that one. How do you guys see that one going?
That's a schooling.
It will be at featherweight, I think. I think Lomachenko's So obviously Walters decided he can make featherweight now. No. Sorry, no, it's not. It's
super feather, isn't it?
Lomachenko's belt, isn't it? Sorry, I'm getting confused.
But I think Lomachenko might stop him. Well, that's what I'm going for.
I've never seen Walters have a bad chin or anything, but I just think
spun a little bit by Donaire, but I think that it could be one of them. Yeah, but I think
Donaire could knock exactly with the left hook. He could knock anyone out with that.
But I think it'll just get Lomachenko's going to land a lot of punches, and I think it doesn't take its toll.
Walters got I think actually. And Walters works the body very well, so it'll be interesting to see if he can slow Lomachenko down. But yeah, no, I mean that's a real the winner of that's a big win, isn't it, for either guy? A really big win. Yeah. I'm just watching Bundu against Gavin, and it's just got to the 6th round, and he's just gone down off the shot. Oh, it's amazing.
Down goes Gavin. Down goes Gavin.
Okay, so that was just a quick bit of good news. In other news, before we get on to previews for the weekend, we can talk about you guys. We've got loads of questions this week, which I want to get through. So should we have a brief chat about? Well, we can talk about anything we want. We could do Joshua and what Hearn's saying about him.
I've got a whinge to have quickly to get out of the way. It's more of a public
Is
service
it about
announcement.
we can talk about Fury as well if you want.
It's not specifically about boxing. This is about idiots off of Twitter who obviously know we are, but we don't know they are, randomly walking up to you when you're about, grabbing hold of you and trying to mug you off.
Sorry, mate.
Yeah, it wasn't you, Dave, but I can't even remember who the fucking cunt was, but he was told in uncertain terms you were going to get glass if you did it again.
Yeah, but I did the exact same thing to Darren from EastEnders.
Yeah, you did. But that's not me.
Hold on. I've got a correction to make. Someone said the other day that Darren killed Heather. He didn't. Give him his due. He gave Heather the best night of her life, and he was the one who made her pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
It was Ben who murdered Heather, so get off Darren's back.
Darren's a nice lad. Well,
Yeah, he's pretty sound, to be fair.
This is what people tune in for, isn't it?
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. Let's talk about. Let's start off with Klitschko Fury because we had a good chat about that in the DMs in the WhatsApp earlier, and obviously it's a big story at the moment. Fury seems to have sort of pulled out or gone on like some sort of hiatus from boxing, citing mental health issues.
Has he though? I haven't seen
that, hasn't he? I thought didn't Peter Fury say that?
But you know what's interesting, and I'm just going to sort of, I'm not going to really give any opinion here. I'm just going to sort of chuck pointers out. But do you not find it interesting how Peter Fury said the fight was off and didn't say why? One media outlet out of about 6 decided to say, "Oh, it's because of mental stuff," and then Peter Fury said,
"That's what I'm saying."
Oh, he's gone mental. So it's Peter Fury was reactive to it. But what do you make?
Let's just lay out what we know so far. So at the moment, the story is that Fury has personal issues, whatever those are, and as a result, the Klitschko rematch is off again. People probably aren't going to get their tickets refunded again, and Hearn is now making moves to make Joshua against Klitschko for the belt, which we're told Fury might have to vacate. Now, I don't know if anyone wants to kick this off, but so Dewey, I'll go to you. You sounded skeptical before. Do you think the mental health stuff is a legit excuse, or do you think it's something else? What's your take on it at the moment?
Shep, I'll tell you the timeline of what happened. They sent out a press release that said he was deemed medically unfit to fight. Lots of people speculated what that was. First, it was an injury. Then people speculated whether it was any mental health issues because Fury's talked that he's suffered from bipolar and different other disorders. Then
didn't he say he was depressed recently? I'm sure I saw an interview with him where he said that. No,
he said it before. He has said it before.
I'm sure he said it. Anyway,
Let Dewey finish, a prick.
Yeah, go.
And then Peter Fury sort of corroborated that story. There's been so many instances, even if let's say he we'll take him for his word. Let's say he is suffering from mental health issues. They did a press conference last week that he didn't turn up to. I very much doubt that his car did break down. I very much doubt that his phone battery did die. If he, for whatever reason he's not fighting, they're saying it's mental health issues now. If he was at that point suffering with mental health issues, why on earth were they still trying to sell the fight?
Because, I don't think.
Okay. So Ainsley, before you go off on one, so Dewey isn't. So Dewey, you're saying you don't buy any of it, and you really don't know what the truth is at this stage.
I'm saying maybe he has, but you can't help but be cynical about the whole mess because there's been so many lies told at different stages over the last 10 months.
Yeah, I agree with that. It has been a fucking cacophony of just clearly dishonest statements since he got the belt, really, just a complete hailstorm of nonsense. Ainsley, sorry, you wanted to go then, mate. Are you as skeptical as Dewey? Do you buy the mental health stuff? What do you think?
I don't, but I'll just. So, if you look at the excuses that have been bandied about from the Furies in the past 10 months, so there's been the bullshit when they're saying, "Oh well, we wanted to fight Glasgow, but we couldn't because of the contract." All right, that's one thing. Fair enough. They're a bit hard done to with the IBF. Then the fucking circus acts got into full floor. Fury basically fucking offending anyone and everything. The Furies specifically complaining about racism, and then having a fucking interview with Colin Hart, standing in Colin Hart's face and basically slagging Jews off.
Which was disgraceful.
Yeah, which, like, the irony of that is just off the scale. Then claiming he had an ankle injury, then it turning out, oh, actually, he's failed a drug test a while ago, which is suppressed. Oh, and Fury's going to go out to fucking France, get pissed off and be jumping about, but his ankle's gone and he's a 20-odd stone guy, because that's not going to cause him any bother. To then the fight getting closer and the tickets, they've still sold less tickets for that than the fucking small oval show sells. And they're getting called out on every excuse every time, and more and more and more. They're getting called out on everything. Well, what's one thing you can't really call out? If someone says to you they're mentally ill, that's a bit of a difficult thing to start calling people out on. As you've seen, like, people who've been sort of calling him out have been getting a lot of reviews for it. But
Well, he said he's depressed, hasn't he?
Which it has, but like,
which would make sense. I mean, he's shown signs of being depressed, like he's mood swings and all the rest of it. There are signs there with Fury. I mean, if a doctor came out and said, yeah, he is depressed, I've just diagnosed him, it wouldn't surprise me at all. Do you know what I mean? If someone came out and said, I don't know, who's a sort of really happy, if someone said Manny Pacquiao's depressed, I'd be like, oh, that's actually a bit surprising, because he always seems really happy and he's always, really, really nice to everyone. The gay stuff notwithstanding. But yeah, if Fury said it, I'd be like, okay, that is actually, that doesn't surprise me at all. It kind of makes sense.
The problem is, Shep, when they announce that he's injured on the same, and it later transpires is that's exactly the same day that he was notified that he was in trouble with UCAD and drug use, or alleged drug use. When that blatant lie is told, and then we're told he's injured, and then he's out partying, when you tell so many lies, it's like the boy who cried wolf. Nobody with a reasonably critical mind can take you for your word anymore. So if he is genuinely suffering from mental health issues, then it's a very sad situation where, because of their previous lies, people can't take them at face value.
But we were told, we'll not say who by, but we were told on Saturday by someone who, it'd be a bit strange if he was making it up, but basically just over a week ago, Fury's out on the beer getting fucking pissed up. And essentially, the line is he can't be asked to train. There's not actually anything wrong with him that they've not known about for fucking years. So
basically, he was trying to say that he knows he can't beat Vlad half-assed. He won't retire because he can still make money fighting someone he can beat when he can't be fucked to train. Is pretty much the gist of it, which I believe.
Yeah, but there was sort of a hint of saying it was around the Vlad thing, so I don't know if it's just let's see if Vlad fucks off in the next few months, he just gets sick of it or whatever.
But he's already beat him once, It
has, but the thing is, I don't know, it depends what you're looking at that.
The effort he had to put in that first time to fight him, though, to beat him. I mean, moving for 12 rounds, he couldn't do that if he only trained for 4 weeks.
Well, I suppose not. But here's the theory, guys. All the weird stuff and the crazy and terrible stuff he's done in the last 9 months is because he has mental problems. Huh? How about that? It all makes sense. Only a crazy person would have said that stuff about Jews and gays and paedophiles and all the rest of it. Huh?
Yeah, but loads of people say mental shit. They're not all mentally ill.
No. Yeah, but you can, like...
I'm acting as Fury's defense lawyer here. Only a sane man would say that Jewish thing to the journalist. Right? But my client is not fit to stand trial.
I don't want to say anything about mental health and that, because some of my family members suffer from it, but you can put it on. And people do to get off from work, don't they? They go, oh, I'm stressed. You get signed off from work. Simple as that.
Yeah, this is what Fury's doing.
Suffer from it. Oh, I'm stressed. Oh, let me go.
Yeah, but this is what I mean. People go to the doctors like, you can't be fucked to work for a couple of weeks. You just go, feel a bit stressed. And then you take these pills, fuck off. 2 weeks off work.
Did you ever see that that episode of South Park with the Japanese guy when the Chinese restaurant owner keeps saying like, "Oh, I'm Japanese. Oh, I had a bad day. I'm going to kill myself. Oh no!" That's what did the Japanese guy do when he had a bad day? Oh, he killed himself. Oh,
That's
no.
what I mean. Like he was allegedly, according to our source, he was in the pub getting pissed up a week before,
Yeah, and this
shopping
is
for bedding.
What,
this is not one of Pop's.
Sorry,
yeah,
you mean like last week, like earlier
Yeah.
this week?
Yeah,
well, in the last from Saturday, it was in the week before that. So from Saturday to the Saturday before this has happened.
basically.
But to be fair, I mean, his actions are kind of the actions of someone who's not right in the head to an extent.
Yeah, but he's been like that his whole career.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, that's what I
the
mean.
point.
It would make sense that he does have mental problems.
No, but it doesn't. Why does that affect him fighting Vlad? He must have suffered with it his whole career, and he's admitted that he's got bipolar, blah blah blah, whatever.
I'm gonna defend Hearn for a moment here, because I think Hearn's been a bit misunderstood in what he said in the last 48 hours. He obviously said, when I heard that Fury was having problems, the first thing I did was get on the phone to Klitschko's promoter, get on the phone to the sanctioning bodies, all the rest of it, trying to take advantage of the situation and get Joshua into a shot for the vacant title. While that's
fair enough.
Which is very cynical and very selfish and very sort of cold and calculating. But equally, Hearn isn't mates with Fury. Hearn is a businessman trying to get his client, the best possible deal. So it makes sense on that level. I'm sure he didn't do it out of personal malice towards the Fury family. But equally, the interview with Hearn yesterday is well worth watching if anyone hasn't seen it. He says, I could see the signs with Fury 6, 7, 8 months ago. And and he says, look, I'm not trying to be a twat, but I could tell that he was struggling to deal with the pressure. And it's not, that's not meant to be an insult to Fury, I don't think. And again, maybe I'm being too charitable to Hearn.
Well, when one of Hearn's clients was struggling to come to terms with being a world champion, he went to bloody Tenerife and tried getting a cock up his ass.
Well, yeah, but Hearn actually made the point. He said, if one of my fighters was kind of behaving like that and really was showing signs that they weren't prepared for the media pressure and the scrutiny and all the rest of it, I would make sure, I was up there seeing them, visiting them regularly. And look, this could just be Hearn spinning it to make himself look good, but equally, what he said did make a lot of sense. He said if Anthony Joshua was in a similar situation where I could see he was struggling to deal with the pressures that being the heavyweight champion brings, and they do bring a huge amount of pressure, even in this era when the title doesn't mean as much as it used to. But we've seen guys like Tyson, the effect it had on him. Buster Douglas, like he fell apart once he became heavyweight champion, just couldn't cope with it at all. It does seem to be this kind of what's the word? Like a sort of a gift and a curse, I suppose, at the same time. And it takes a certain type of character to be able to carry it on your shoulders and deal with it and sort of be as strong as you were before. And I think he just, Hearn said that he could see signs with Fury that he was struggling to deal with it. And it could be bollocks, but to me, it sounded like it did kind of sound like a plausible explanation.
But
I don't know the source of the news, I don't know.
One thing that did make me laugh yesterday was Peter Fury. He tweeted Eddie Hearn's comment, "Smack of self-promotion." They're just like, "Oh yeah, Pete is a fucking promoter. What do you expect?"
Yeah, if you had one, perhaps he wouldn't be in this fucking mess.
What a shock that a promoter's promoting something to his advantage. Maybe if you didn't have a fucking idiot who was too busy fucking chasing ice cream vans down the road and fucking running into bins and fucking just basically being a fucking weirdo who now is facing the fact that his 3 premier fighters will have all failed a drugs test, and you've got no fucking manager. His only sponsor is a fucking pizza shop on a back alley of some fucking
Bolton
little fucking village in Lancaster, and you had to get some PR guys on the fucking go because you had some idiot running a Twitter account, Team Fury Massive, basically fucking photoshopping pictures left, right, and centre and saying I'm going to shag everyone's mother. Maybe if you just sat and thought about that for a second and fucking for 1 minute thought you can't just do everything the way you think it should be done, and that sometimes people know things better than you do, and this is why you hire professionals to do certain things, you wouldn't be in this situation. Just a thought.
Could anyone imagine this happening with Matchroom? Because I couldn't.
Not a chance. That's it.
That's what I was saying, Dewey. Hearn was obviously promoting himself to an extent, but equally he was saying that, look, the way we have it set up is that if a fighter was having issues or if a fighter was behaving in a really erratic way like this, we wouldn't we wouldn't allow it to continue,
Sure.
you know, by whatever means.
Even when they've had issues like Kell Brook with the Tenerife thing, nobody really know. Well, we sort of know, don't we? But it's
but
guesswork. It just gets, he fans the flames anyway.
Yeah, but look
Whereas
at when
Fury and
Frankie
that, they
Gavin,
sort of like, it's pathetic, isn't it?
when Frankie Gavin hit that fucking bloke with a stool or whatever. That was cleverly managed, wasn't it?
Yeah. With the Furies, it seems to be that they quite like being a bit infamous.
Yes.
And then they play up to it at the same time.
Of course they do. They love the like.
Fuck's sake.
It's us against the world mentality.
The gas of
Absolutely, and I remember when did his dad get out of prison? Was it like February or something?
It was
earlier.
it was a few months before the
Well, I remember an interview with him in February anyway, or January, where his dad was just his dad. If you close your eyes, it would have been exactly like what Tyson was saying. You think like, mate, you're like a 50-year-old man, for fuck's sake. You sound like a sort of paranoid 17-year-old, like talking about conspiracies in the media and, you know, people out to get you. It's like having influences like that. And I know Peter Fury can speak a lot of sense at times, but equally, you know, if they're all in a huddle every day in their little world, with Eddie Chambers like mopping the floor, and you know, and just sort of feeding each other's paranoia. Eddie Chambers is in the middle of it.
Yeah, I have it on good authority.
I don't think there's any professionals around them.
No,
that
I agree.
Tell them no or advise them that what they're doing isn't the best option. Because whenever there's anyone who questions anything any Fury does, they're just shut down and shut out. I don't think there's any room for criticism or critical thinking in that team. I think everyone's a yes man. We even had a situation where Tyson was doing a press conference challenging the Lanil heavyweight champion, and his father, who's nothing to do with the training of him, nothing to do with the management of him, nothing to do with the promotion of him, his father was sat on the top table. Can you think of any other sport in the world where, let's say, Novak Djokovic, Cristiano Ronaldo, whoever from any other sport, their father would sit on the top table and slag off their opposition? It only happens in boxing.
Yeah.
And until it goes wrong, nobody questions it.
And when it does happen, it's mental stuff like Fury's dad inexplicably sat next to Vlad at a press conference, or like Muhammad Ali surrounded by like Nation of Islam thugs, you know, with Don King in the middle of it. Like it just, or you know, Tyson surrounded by like prostitutes at a press conference.
And they all go, oh, it's great for boxing. People are talking about boxing. It's not fucking great for boxing, because in the end, it catches up with us.
I
As a community, though,
completely do. I'm not sure if I'd say it was just yes, man. I think it's more a case of like everything is, the family is everything. Do you know what I mean? It's almost like the fucking mafia. Like you know, if anyone went against the family on anything, they would just be excommunicated, wouldn't they? Like they'd never, you know, be allowed back in again.
But you know But you know the you know the interview they did when they were with Colin Hart. I don't know if any of you have ever seen that film Four Lions before. But there's like a scene,
the terrorist comedy film.
Yeah. There's a scene in that where the guy's car breaks down, and he basically said like Jews invented carburetors to control global traffic. I just thought that perfectly fit into the fucking interview when they were slagging off Jews. Just like they not realise they're half a pay themselves. But
does anyone know if the Furies have been asked to speak at the Labour conference this week? Because I think their Jew hatred would go down pretty well there.
Yeah, I don't know. Are the Furies friends of Hamas? I believe they probably are. I can't say that for certain.
The next, when Fury has this comeback, you'll see Hezbollah on the fucking promotion top table.
I've seen him. There is a photo of him, and he's got some boxing shorts, which is just a Palestine flag, I'm sure.
Mental, isn't it? Don't say that to Pop. Big up on human shields and children getting killed and everything. But anyway, let's get away from Israel Palace. Dewey, you're echoing a lot.
Oh, sorry, mate.
Can you try reconnecting? Yeah, sorry, Dewey's he'll be back on in a sec. But yeah, okay. So the Fury thing is just a big mess. I mean, it's very hard to speculate because literally every day a new story gets released that contradicts the one from the day before. It's really, really hard to keep up with it. At the moment, to me, it looks like it could end up being Joshua versus Klitschko in November or December, which, you know, that would be fun if it's for all the belts. It's a bit of a backhanded way for Joshua to get, you know, a unification, but, you know, at least it's a unification. We want champions to fight champions, don't we, I guess?
Yeah, but like,
it fucks up the whole lineage again, doesn't it? Well, not again, because that hasn't fucked up the heavyweight in a while, but that would completely mess it up. You'd have the lineal champion with no belts, same as you've got.
And the way the lineage would start again is if it was 1 versus 2.
Yeah, but Tyson would be for 12 months, would he not?
But if we said Fury was out now, then I suppose there's an argument Vlad's number 1 again.
No,
maybe
my boy Wilder, mate.
yeah, I'd say Wilder's still above Joshua.
Wilder versus Vlad for the lineage. Then I don't know.
Yeah. But the thing is,
it'll be a big fight if it happens, and
right.
If it happened in London, especially. No, Dewey, you sound fine now, mate. Do you want to hop in? We're talking Vlad versus Joshua now. Whether that's going to happen.
It's not going to happen because why would Vlad, unless the WBO and the WBA move very quickly to strip Tyson Fury by the end of the week, it's not going to happen. And Vlad's not going to just fight for the IBF because he'll be a challenger. He won't be a mandatory, so he'll have to sign up to an immediate rematch and probably about 3 options for his next 3 fights. It may happen in the future, sooner than it would have before. But timeline-wise, I think it's going to be very awkward for the other belts to become available and to still fight on November 26th. And also, why would they fight at the Manchester Arena against Klitschko when they can sell her out fighting Dorian Darch, when they could fight at Wembley next year and do it? Because that is a genuine stadium fight, isn't it?
But like, what's his name? Andy Ruiz was supposed to be fighting Huey. That was going to be a final eliminator. So you'd imagine if Tyson gets stripped, that Huey's got a big say in what happens with the WBO belt.
Yeah, and he's promoted by Frank Warren.
Yeah, and
like the WBO.
And I don't want to keep going back over old ground, but I did forget to say it. So when like the news first started coming out, let me see if I can find the exact wording of what he said. But have you noticed with Peter Fury how when situations arise, one of the first things he does is he sort of refers to the lawyers. So it's like, oh, well, this is one for the lawyers to sort out. We're confident that they'll get it. That's sort of what he said like Friday night. It's like, oh, well, we've nothing to fear.
A lot of promoters
will
say
sort
that,
it out.
though, mate. I mean, that's Aram's default response to pretty much anything controversial. And Hearn says it a lot as well. I mean, it's a business where people are pretty litigious, isn't it? Like, you need to be careful with what you're saying on the record.
Yeah, but I mean, like, in terms of him saying that he's not going to get stripped because the lawyers are going to sort it out, I was like, well, what the fuck are the lawyers going to do if you're not fighting? Like, he's already got very lucky that he's not fought for 11 months.
A year, pretty much, almost, yeah.
And he's only got stripped of 1 belt. So, see, you can feel sorry for him at the time about the IBF, but the fact that he's not done anything for ages after means, well, it would have happened anyway. And he's lucky not to have lost one or both of the other 2.
We had a question about this. This leads it on perfectly. Question was from Niall O'Connor, who said, with Frank Warren being so close to the WBO, is it likely that Fury will get to keep that title? What do we think about that? Do you think there's a chance where maybe Vlad gets the WBO?
I've seen something on Twitter that they've put a time frame on when he has to fight.
He's got 10 days to give his reasoning or he gets stripped.
Ah.
Because that's what I was going to say is you will be very, and I don't know how it works, so this is me just speculating, but like I don't know what the WBO want because I'd assume they don't just want one letter off of some doctor who's known him for fucking 20 years saying, oh yeah, he's crackers, mate. I'd assume they'll want 1 or 2 fucking independent verifications from doctors saying, yeah, he's got something wrong with him. And if you've got some sort of mental illness, they can't do that in space of fucking 2 days.
Well, mate, that's a perfect leads me on to the next question perfectly, which is from Yestin Venables, which is, how long should a fighter be allowed to be inactive if they have mental illness issues? Obviously, if they have genuine mental illness issues.
Shep, I'll answer that.
Yeah, go on, do it, yeah.
A lot of people, like Carpia, people in my family who have suffered from various types of mental health issues, nothing too serious. But when it's rationalized to people without an understanding of it, they explain how it's just like a physical injury. It can be just as debilitating, but you just can't physically see it. So you could just apply the same rationale to let's say Vitaly Klitschko when he retired, was it 2010 because of his shoulder? No, earlier than that, sorry, because of his shoulder. And the WBC said, you're champion emeritus, whatever, that's a load of crap. But they then entitle the injured boxer to have the first shot when he comes back. That's how I think it should be handled.
Yeah, that would make sense. I mean,
Yeah, that's the best fit.
Yeah, I mean, they say to Fury, look, go on your way. If you ever do come back, we'll give you a shot straight up at the belt. I think that's fair. Whether the Furies would want that, they seem to just want Tyson just to be able to sit at home with the belts forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
they slag the Klitschko's for the very thing that they'll slag the Klitschko's for. He is doing, and he is doing it to a worse degree. So it's quite funny how things have gone full circle.
But if he has got a genuine, seriously mental health issue, right? I know he can make millions upon millions as being heavyweight champion in the world. But surely, if you loved a family member, you'd want them to get right more than you'd want them to make millions of pounds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that was the other thing with Peter Fury. I keep saying that, but I'll try and make this the last time I refer to something he said. But one of the first things he was saying is basically, he's won these belts and he's not financially secure yet. It's like, well, you've always said it's not about the money. But here you are, grandstanding about why he shouldn't have his belt stuck off him and basically saying, yeah, it's all about the money. So, but this is the thing. You can always poke holes in the Furies. They're always saying something that contradicts something they said before. Like Hearn does, and like he rightfully gets called out on. But
I don't think they're half as smart as Eddie is, though. Making a narrative and sustaining it.
Yeah, Hearn is, for as much as we slag him, and I seem to be in a good mood with Hearn the last few days. I don't know, maybe it's because he's lost a few fights. He's not quite as smug in his videos. But he has got obvious strengths, and he is very good at kind of, I think, keeping a calm head in situations like these.
He's a spin doctor.
Yeah, and he's good at not panicking, I think. Whereas I do think the Furies do tend to panic about and just sort of say the first thing that comes into their head, which isn't always the best thing. We're trying to get Press Pass Paul on because he's officially transferred from the boxing asylum now.
They had to pay us to take him.
Yeah. we exchanged him for a belt, a podcasting belt.
We've actually give the money to Brian as a goodwill gesture for him to go and get himself a rent boy.
And to get that sex change he wants.
Yeah.
Brian Maloney.
Anyway, less about Brian's mental illness.
And there we go. Brian's a prime example. Someone with a mental illness who doesn't say mental things.
I was going to say earlier, but I don't really want to accuse Brian of anything on a public forum. But I know plenty of people where I'm pretty convinced they have some form of depression, and it goes undiagnosed because generally people can kind of live with it in a sense. I was convinced for a while, right, that Jim Lampley was depressed because of the amount he used to cry, and he used to genuinely. No. That's a sign of being depressed. It's not a joke. I'm honestly not joking.
Oh my god.
But that is just quite funny. He does cry out.
Lampley would watch a good fight, and it would remind him of something 20 years earlier, and he'd start crying. And that's a really bad sign or that's a real big red flag of being depressed. And I'm convinced that if you had Lampley off the record, he would say, yeah, I suffered from depression at one stage. I'm sure he was depressed for a period. He seems to be better now.
But there's different levels to it. I reckon every single person at some point has had a level of depression. But
yeah, but it's when sort of having a nice meal and watching telly won't fix it. Do you know what I mean?
Oh no, yeah. Well, I'm in a perpetual state of depression, according to a lot of people. Which is possibly true.
Some people feel pretty fed up and then go home and put the telly on and feel better. I got over my depression from this afternoon. But I know what you mean. And there is a tendency. It's very hard to understand, and there's a tendency to joke about it. And I don't want to take the piss out of Fury if he does have it, because like you say, my family have also suffered, or people in my family have also suffered from it. And same as your guys, I think almost everyone would have someone in their family who'd had it to some degree or some sort of mental health issue. And it's horrible, and hopefully Fury doesn't have that, and he can get back in the ring sooner or later. But equally, I don't want him holding
Mm.
the belts hostage for another 6 months. It's stupid.
It He's
Sorry,
managed. It's mental that he's managed to go from, when would it have been, like end of November, was it? He's
Yeah.
gone from in the end of November. Well, not even to that to now. We got it's like after he even fought. So after him fighting and before he's fought again, he's managed to turn me from hating him into being a bit of a fan of him into thinking he's a fucking idiot again.
Right.
Which is some fucking.
We'll go through a few questions now because this leads us on quite nicely. Carpi, first question to you before we do the preview of Jürgen Bremer's exhibition fight this weekend. Carpi, right? Who has had a worst 2016? Joe Gallagher or the heavyweight division?
Ooh.
Gallagher.
Show your work as well.
Gallagher, because he took a massive L right at the beginning with the quick fight. Did he suffer any loss? Yeah, he suffered a loss after that with Stephen Smith. Paul Smith didn't retire, so he must be gutted about that deep down.
Still has to see Paul Smith every day.
Yeah, he still has to see that bloody hairy chest of his in the gym, so that must sicken him. Liam Smith lost.
Dave Caldwell, a couple of his fighters won big fights, which would have annoyed Gallagher.
Callum Smith seems to have regressed.
Yeah, I don't know if that's partly to do with him as well as Gallagher though on the Callum Smith one.
Obviously, Crolla lost on the weekend.
Crolla lost.
Yeah, I'd say Gallagher's had an atrocious.
The Crolla one hurt.
But you know, in football, when you get like manager of the month, you get the manager of the month curse, don't you?
I think
Tesco's suffering from trainer of the year curse. Next year's his year. He'd be back better and bigger than ever.
He's the Leicester of boxing, isn't he?
No, because they're not doing what. They're only doing what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to be a mid-table side, aren't they? But like when like a manager who's unexpected, I don't know. Say like if Eddie Howe was to win at Bournemouth, was to win manager of the month, go unbeaten for a month, the next month he wouldn't win a game. This is what's happened at Tesco.
It's not. What has basically happened is, if you want to equate it to football in terms, it's like fucking QPR have gone unbeaten for a season, not for a season. They've gone unbeaten for a month in the Championship. So FIFA have decided to give the QPR manager fucking manager of the year.
No, mate, I've got
because he's not far. He's not at the top level.
There's a historical example that perfectly illustrates this. It was in the late 90s. It was sort of 96 or 97. It was Aston Villa when they had John Gregory as their manager. Dewey might remember this. I don't think you two are old enough without sounding like a twat.
I can remember Gregory. I think I'm older than Dave.
Oh, really? Okay.
Just about, yeah.
It's because Dewey looks really old, that's all. But anyway, only joking. John Gregory was manager of Villa. Villa were a mid-table side. And in November, Villa, I can remember this very clearly, Villa had an unbelievable start. Press Pass will know this. If he was on the call, he'd remember. But Villa had like the best start they'd ever had in the Premier League. And they were top in November. And then after that, obviously, they regressed to the mean and they ended up finishing like 8th or something. But like there were calls in sort of March to get rid of Gregory because like they weren't top anymore, and you just think, yeah, it's a bit ridiculous. Surely the fans didn't actually expect them to be top all year. But he had such a good period, a purple patch, and then it kind of regressed to the mean after that. And I think maybe that's happening with Gallagher, who we've all, you know,
he didn't get like an elite win in that time, so it's not like he's been down in the top table and then all of a sudden it's gone wrong. No, he was fucking beating average guys. Then he's gone to the. So it's like what he's done is.
Has any trainer ended up with 4 title belts in his gym without a single significant win of any of his fights? Do you know what I mean? Like he ended up with a number of world title belts without a single significant win for anyone in his stable. And it was a bit mental, and I'm really glad that. The idea that how many fighters did he have on the Manchester card? Didn't he have 3 fighters on the Manchester card?
Callum Johnson, Burton, and Crolla.
Yeah, mental.
Yeah, Morrison as well.
Oh yeah, 4.
Like he's fucking Freddie Roach, jet setting around the world to all these superstar clients. For fuck's sake.
But yeah, no, I've just figured out who he is. So basically, Gallagher's at Arsenal, right? He's never going to win the domestic league. So he's never going to win like the Premier League in England. He's never going to be the best here. But then when he ends up in the Champions League, he just gets iced all the time.
Yeah, but Arsenal have won the Premier League, though.
No,
yeah, not anymore. But not. So I think that Gallagher is the current version of Arsenal.
Well, when Arsenal last won the Premier League, the Invincible season, didn't they?
Yeah. Oh, that might have been Gallagher's 49.
Yeah,
Wasn't
he went 50 odd unbeaten, did he?
Gallagher's Spurs. Let's say Gallagher's Spurs. Never going to win the league. Might occasionally have a good season, but then gets iced whenever they finish top 4. Gets iced in the Champions League. Yeah. Gallagher is Tottenham.
Anyway, can I just end this?
But equates what they're doing to what they're doing at Real Madrid.
Can I end this by saying fuck Joe Gallagher?
Fuck Joe Gallagher.
I've got a question for you three then. Do you think Gallagher's like mystique around him, Zach, and Sky pandering to him? Do you think that's going to come to an end soon?
No.
Well, I think people can see through it, can't they? Because they're like, well, why are we constantly told this guy is amazing when his fighters never win? Like, people will eventually see through it. You know?
Yeah, but they spin it. They don't just lose. They lose for certain reasons. Like Liam Smith lost because he couldn't spar for 4 weeks. Crolla lost because he got punched in the head in round 6.
Yeah.
Paul Smith lost to Ward because he got that cut. He was winning.
And he's got diabetes.
It's amazing that I just can't believe Crolla said that. I lost because I got punched too hard. Fucking hell.
In fairness to Crolla, I think he uses more as a than an excuse. If you were to.
What was that?
I think Crolla used that as a reason rather than an excuse.
Well, we'll treat it as an excuse. He's a Gallagher fighter, so we can't like him, unfortunately. As much as I like to.
Well, there's a few Gallagher fighters I like, but they're not the only ones at the forefront with Tesco talking shit.
Yeah, there are Gallagher fighters that I like as people, but I will never cheer for them ever because of him.
I quite like Scott Quigg, really.
Yeah, Quigg is sound, but it's when he's sound when Hearn and fucking Gallagher are like being idiots in the background.
Yeah, the people he surrounds himself with, isn't it?
No,
but anyway,
Quigg seems legit.
We could do this all night. Can you move on from Gallagher because we?
No. I've got a really good
Gallagher
question that I want Dewey to start off on. Paul Butler obviously signed for Gallagher after a 3-month trial, and paying. I assume he's paying Gallagher for the privilege of being trained, and
that's the way it generally works.
Yeah.
Yeah, goes there.
So Butler's signing soon and is making his debut. I don't know if he's got a date set yet, but Butler's going to be making his debut as a Gallagher fighter soon. Dewey, do you expect any improvements in Butler? That's first part. Second part is what is Gallagher possibly going to do to improve him? And the third part is how tight will his high guard be?
That's a bit fair. Tighter than a nun. No, I don't think it's tighter than nuns. God, what's he going to add? I think I definitely Gallagher's better than Oliver Harrison. Who really confuses me, and I think sometimes he confuses his fighters too. Is he better on experience and training? Arnie obviously did argue. I don't know what he's going to add to Paul Butler. I think he'll be more compact. Whether that's an improvement or not, we'll see. Because a lot of Paul Butler's fights as well, fight at bantamweight, he is liable to spending a lot of time on the ropes. Gallagher's fighters don't tend to fight off the ropes. They're normally the one on the front foot, behind that high. It'll be interesting to see how they match up together.
I don't know. I think Butler's career pretty much ended the minute he couldn't make super flyweight. So it is really irrelevant who he goes with.
It'll be interesting to see if Gallagher can improve him at all, because he was a good little fighter before. But I agree with you, Andy. Since he's moved up, he doesn't look as impressive. He's sort
of in a way already fights like a Gallagher fighter in many ways. So it might actually work out. He's not going to win a world title at bantamweight because McDonald would probably McDonald would beat him. Payano would beat him. Yamanaka would beat him.
I'd select him.
What?
Say again.
Over Haskins.
I think. Do you say you'd favour him over Haskins?
I've muted him. It sounds shit.
Yeah, I think he said.
Log on and log back off, Chewie, mate. We can't understand you. It sounds like you're having a stroke every time you speak.
Yeah, I think he said he'd favour Butler over Haskins, but I don't agree.
Nah.
He's been banned. Dewey is no longer on the panel. He's been banned. I was going to say, Ainsley, for me, Butler was winning the Tete fight until he got caught with a punch. Just unlucky, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, that's a Gallagher trait just there. That must.
He started slow.
Unlucky.
He was just building up a head of steam. Right. Okay. So yeah. Paul Butler. He's going to be a right twat as well under Gallagher. He'll be whining about everything. He whined enough about the Tete fight before. Oh, that would have been awful under Gallagher. Right. Okay. Sam, this one I'll send it to you. Do you think Hearn is hoping that Linares will be over the hill in 6 months' time?
See, I was thinking about this earlier on. After I watched it again, I was thinking, what are they expecting in the third fight? What can Crolla do differently to win? And that must be the only thing they're banking on. Maybe Linares' hands is even more fucked, and he just can't throw anything.
Because I felt like, I mean, a lot of us, the guys who predicted Crolla, they predicted it on the basis that they felt Linares had sort of had his best days, and Crolla.
That looked like Linares' best ever day.
Yeah. I was going to say, to me, he looks like he's been getting better recently.
He might have finally reached a point where he's sturdy enough to take shots. He might have finally got his man strength, so to speak, if you want to call it that.
I think I saw he's 28 or 29, Linares. So it's not as if he's.
I thought he was 31.
Is he older? No, I could be completely wrong there. Let me research it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's 31.
It might be Crolla. I'm
but anyway, I was going to say to you lot, that's probably one of the most pointless rematches I can think of, other than Kovalev Pascal in quite a long time. There was literally no need for a rematch. It was conclusive. The right man won.
It's an entertaining fight.
Did you just say
fight to watch?
Kovalev Pasquale?
No, Pascal.
I thought you said Pasquale.
Have you not seen his fight with Joe Pasquale?
Yeah, Joe Pasquale chinned him.
Cracking fight, mate. Cracking fight.
Pasquale took it to points. He was hard done by, I felt, by the.
Well, he was robbed. That deserves a rematch. But anyway, yeah, I just don't see any need for it at all. I watch it because it was a good fight, but I don't. I'd rather, from Linares' point of view, I can perhaps see why he'd be up for it, because what you're going to do, fight Crolla again, get paid nicely, probably win, or fight Mikey or Zlatkanin when you might lose.
But I think, like, if you look at the fight from start to finish, Linares is better looking. Linares has got a better looking wife. Linares looks better in a pair of pants. Linares is a better fighter. The only thing that Crolla did better was have a better walk-in, which the match on Twitter was going mental about.
Linares is a much better fucking trainer as well. Let's be honest. It's a guy who's trained with Emmanuel Stewart, and he's trained with Freddie Roach and all the rest of it. He actually knows what a real trainer is.
But,
right. Now, Dewey, I've got a fun one for you later on, because the answer, I think, is a Welshman. But let's just hop on, because we had a bit of news today. I was hoping Paul would be on for this, because it's about Sam Eggington, the greatest Midlands fighter of all time. But Eggington was offered the Danny Garcia fight a couple of weeks back, and it's been confirmed now that he was offered a purse of $100,000, and Eddie Hearn turned it down. He said he went back and asked for 150, and Heyman said no. Now that tells you two things. First of all, that I think that's a pretty stupid move, and Eggington should have taken the fight. But also that Heyman can't afford to pay a $150,000 purse to an opponent, which suggests, because Garcia would be on a pretty major show, that the PBC is very fast running out of money. So the question is Hearn completely lying about all of it, or you know, are PBC on borrowed time? Dewey, do you want to start, mate? If your sound's fixed.
I think the PBC are well beyond, their budget. They've scaled right back. Interestingly enough, I know he's not the most popular writer in the world, but Dan Raphael did an article about this maybe last week or the week before, where he explained stuff that they were hemorrhaging money, as simple as lugging the big stage and that big showpiece they had. They used to walk out from on the PBC shows. They can't take that around the country now, so that's been binned. The PBCs, we all know they paid extortionately stupid purses, and not just to their own guys either. You know, there were boxers who went over there for very, very good paydays above the market above the going rate on the market.
Can I ask you
it's almost looked like
what did Cleverly get for the Fonfara? If you know the answer,
a lot more than he would have got anywhere else.
Yes, without. I know. Obviously, you're mates with him, but would you say he was overpaid for that fight?
Yeah, but if you think about it, he was coming down from cruise. I know he had that Thomas Mann fight, but that, if you can call it a fight, he was coming down from cruiserweight on the back of a very disappointing performance on a massive platform where, let's be honest, he lost a lot of credibility after the Bellew fight, and Heyman still paid him a stupid amount of money. No fighter in the world is going to turn it down. I've always thought prior to the PBC that Al Heyman was some sort of boxing mastermind, but a lot of the decisions they've made with the PBC is quite sure that it's quite obvious that he's not a boxing person.
I think that the big issues from where I've seen it is the once he got rumbled with the whole Richard Schaefer De La Hoya thing, where they were tricking De La Hoya into thinking that these guys were signed to Golden Boy contracts. Once that emerged. The house and obviously Schaefer got his ban, didn't he, for 2 years or whatever, the non-compete clause. Once that happened, it seemed that Heyman really sort of the matchmakers all stayed with Oscar, and without we've seen time and time again, without the matchmakers, you can't build superstars, you can't build rivalries, and you can't generate the interest. And I think Heyman has really suffered from not having a good enough matchmaker in his team,
It's not,
and also from
It's also
sorry, yeah,
sense. Go on, Andy.
Right, I think that what sort of happened here is Heyman's fucked himself up by creating a false economy with his own fighters. So his fighters know that they're going to get a premium for fighting idiots under him. So it sort of got epitomised by what Angel Garcia said at that time. But why would, say, Broner fight... I don't know. So why would Broner fight Spence for $2 million, say? And I know the money's not there, but just say, for example, when he could fight like Ricky Burns for $1.5 million, or he could fight fucking Ashley Fairfain for $1.5 million.
Yeah,
why?
Exactly. The perfect example is why would Danny Garcia fight Thurman or Sean Porter for, let's say, $2.5 million when he could fight 3 times against Malignaggi, Guerrero, and some other nobody, Eric Bonet or fucking Chris Algieri, and get $1 million each time? Yeah, I completely agree with you. It's the problem is that they couldn't. If they were offering sort of 10 million for fights like Garcia Thurman, then they could have got the big fights made. But these guys think I can take 0 risk and still make about 75% of the money I would have made to actually sort of risk my undefeated record. And he completely disincentivized the fighters to actually prove themselves, hasn't he? And it gets to the point where the only guys who are willing to take risks are the ones who've lost a couple, like Sean Porter, who's clearly happy to fight anyone because he's already lost a couple of times. He doesn't care.
Thurman, I think, will do it though, because Thurman's the one who's. I think Thurman would fight Spence if they offered it to him. I think he'd fight.
But he'd ask for a lot of money. That's the point. He'd probably ask for $3 million.
Maybe. How much did he get for? What did he get for Porter? He got like 750 grand, didn't he?
Oh, he must have got more than that, surely.
I'm sure it wasn't that much. I think, honestly, if you look at Thurman's not a dickhead. He's quite intelligent, and I don't think he's fell under the spell like some of the others have.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's why I think he's really... We said this a while ago, didn't we? We said that we thought Thurman was really disenchanted with the way Heyman was working, and he was kind of losing his...
Did Thurman not want out?
That was a rumour that we started.
Oh, was it? I thought that was...
Was it ringside rumours, was it?
No. That was a rumour that we had a big chat about it on the pod about 6 months ago. We said he was delaying the Porter fight and delaying it because he was trying to see out his contract. And it was a theory that made a lot of sense. But we're now seeing, aren't we, that Garcia Thurman is being targeted for like next spring. And you just think, do it now, for fuck's sake. Like, why do you have to wait 9 months?
The signs coming out from like the Garcia camp are very worrying. Though. Like he's turning down some really shit fighters. Like, to turn down Berto, and I don't give a shit, right? If you're Danny Garcia and someone offers you 300 grand to fight Berto, you should think, fucking hell, that's the easiest 300 grand I'm ever going to make. I
thought of a tweet about this earlier today. I haven't tweeted it out yet, but I think it's quite a good joke. I was going to say, Headline reads: undefeated Philadelphia fighter Danny Garcia turns down Andre Berto. And then I was going to say, no, that's not a headline from 2011. That's a headline from 2016. For fuck's sake! Like as in, you could see that maybe Garcia would turn Berto down back when Berto was a champion and Garcia was like 15-0. But now, like, he's turning down, and I'm pretty sure he'd knock Berto out. You know, I'd be very confident picking Garcia in that fight. Berto's damaged goods. You know, he's well past his best, and he had a war with Ortiz, and Ortiz is, you know, an absolute joke. I'm sure Garcia wouldn't mind fighting Ortiz, but it's now got to the stage where he's not just turning down the Matisse rematch or Khan. He's now turning down B-level opponents and saying that even they are too much.
Is Berto even B-level anymore? Because, like, what's Berto like? I don't know. Berto's Welsh.
Berto's the sort of guy I could have seen before the Golovkin fight. If Eddie Hearn had said, "Oh, I've got Berto coming over to fight Brooke," I could have seen that. Do you know what I mean? I could have seen that happening. I could have seen Heyman say, "I know what, Berto, mate. You've had your time. Go."
Berto's mindset is summed up by the fact that he beat Lopez, and after the fight, he said that he'd shocked the world. So that says what he sort of knows about his level now.
I think Berto. I think, to be fair, he's a guy who I think knows he's sort of on the downside of his career. Has won titles already. He's been in big fights. He fought Floyd. You know, he's made a lot of money, and I genuinely do think that he is at the stage where he just wants to like have a few big fights and then leave. And I think if they offered him Thurman, he'd take it. I think if they offered him Porter or anyone else, maybe even Spence, I think he'd probably take them all. He just wants to get paid and get out. Whereas Garcia is in that horrible position of wanting to get paid, but also still having a lot to lose. So it's just so cautious and defensive. And you know what's happening is that they'll go for the Thurman fight next spring or whatever, and that'll override the Khan mandatory. And then, you know, he'll push the Khan mandatory back another year or whatever it is. And again, this is Khan we're talking about. This isn't some like undefeated killer at 147. It's Amir Khan. He already beat him once. Just fucking fight him again. It'll be fun and it will do huge ratings and you'll probably win again. But he won't do it. And it's not that he's turning down. He's not turning down Errol Spence, which would kind of be understandable because Spence is a lot of risk with very little reward. He's turning down Berto, who's about 30% reward, 70%. 30% risk, 70% reward. And he said, no, the ratio's not good enough. I want a guy who I'm going to get paid $1 million and I literally am guaranteed a win.
Eggington.
Yeah. The fact that Hearn, I thought it was very funny. Hearn said Heyman just called him up and asked if he had any welterweights who'd fight Danny Garcia.
Have you seen Hearn backtracking?
I said, it's convenient that he said that to you. You know, I'm sure he called you up plenty of times before and asked about Kell Brook and you wouldn't send him over. But now you're more than happy. But
Hearn's really backtracking though. Really backtracking about
Eggington, honestly. And look, this is nothing against Eggington. I have no doubt Eggington would have taken the fight, no doubt at all. And to be honest, I don't think Eggington's upside is that big. So I think Hearn should have sent him over. To be honest,
well, Eggington's not going to get a European title.
Well, yeah, but I think he'll lose to Gavin, and then he'll be set right back. British level, won't he?
That's what I mean. He's not going to get. He won't get to European level. So that's an opportunity that he's never going to get. He was only getting that opportunity because Garcia's a fucking pussy. Like literally, that's it. There's not going to be another champion who's that bad.
I don't know where Eggington's ranked. I'd be surprised if he was top 15 with any of the bodies. I don't think he can't be. Surely,
he won't be, surely.
Unless I think he has fought for one of them sloppy fucking WBC belts before though. So they might.
But you're talking about Garcia really scraping. You're talking about Garcia scraping the back end of the top 40 in the division.
Yeah,
he won't even go near top 20 guys anymore. It's absurd. You know, it's one thing to be ducking the number 2 in your division, but imagine if Canelo said, "Do you know what? I'm not going to fight Willie Munro. It's too dangerous. I'm fighting," and then if he said, "I'm fighting Bursak," that's the fight the fans want on fucking pay-per-view. Like. If he was fighting guys like I guess maybe Flores is comparable in terms of how awful the fight is, but Bellew has just come off a very tough fight. Garcia hasn't had a tough fight in 4 years almost. Ridiculous.
Yeah, since Batista.
Yeah.
Yeah, go on, mate.
Sam Eggington is 26 with the WBC.
Yeah.
There are 25 people above him. not including Danny Garcia.
And I know I've heard that Garcia has. They turned the Floyd fight down back after the Matisse fight. They said it was too early for him, which I could sort of understand at the time. But he's not interested in the Peterson rematch. He's turned Berto down now. I mean, where does it end? Honestly, like,
do you think that I can see? It's tough to see a route for fucking Garcia here because he is literally turning everybody down. Everybody.
I've never seen a fighter.
It's insane.
I've never seen a fighter make themselves so, from such a good position. Where at that time when he beat Matisse, he had the strongest, that he deserved the Mayweather fight, in my opinion, and he was the only one not asking for it.
They were offered it, but they didn't want it.
Great, yeah. Well, even if he doesn't want to fight Floyd, they're obviously at the top fights there. But he's fought Dross for 3 years. I can't understand it. I know, like his dad says, "Oh, we can fight Rod Salker and get paid $1 million peanuts." But it's the most baffling thing I've seen. Once again, this Heyman has clearly badly advised this fighter. He badly advised Amir Khan. He badly advised Danny Garcia. He's made a mess of the PBC. When the PBC launched and they were talking about a UFC-style boxing outfit, the one thing that in the UFC, if you lose, the reason why it doesn't matter is because you're all under the same banner and you can all fight each other. Well, Heyman was never close to replicating that because his own fighters very rarely fight each other.
Yeah, but like I think for Khan himself chose to pull out of the Alexander fight. So
yeah, because Heyman told him.
He's got to take some blame on that one. He couldn't. Well,
but all these guys are getting told what to do. That's the point. Like,
did anyone
was like going against Heyman's wishes or anything?
No. But I mean, like,
did anyone see the Julian Williams tweet this week? He said, "Words to the effect of I've been advised by Al Heyman that I'm not fighting until next year." That's not advice. That's
non-advice, isn't it?
Julian Williams is a bit.
Yeah, that's not advice. That's the polar opposite.
Williams is another one.
That is literally non-advice.
Williams is another one of those guys where, as a prospect, he would fight. He went to when he was like 7-0. He went to Centeno's backyard and fought him, and I think the fight was a draw in the end on a cut.
He won every round, but it was like.
But it got stopped on a cut or whatever.
Yeah.
And he was willing, as literally a prospect. He'd had like 6 or 7 fights, and he was willing to travel literally to the hometown of another undefeated prospect and fight them on short notice, no problem. Now he's sitting there saying, people say, do you want to fight the Charlos next? And he says, like, oh, I'll fight whoever Al tells me to. It's pathetic. He does this to fight. He takes their edge away completely.
But like, it's fighters hiding behind. It's easy to say, oh well, Heyman told them this, Heyman told them that. Well, fucking, they're not just like 5-year-old kids who have got no mind for themselves.
His contracts are watertight, though, aren't they?
Yeah, but I mean, like, come on, you can't put all the blame. You can put a lot of the blame on him, but
there's only ever been one fighter who's left him, like a real, top contender that's left him. I think that was Andre Durrell, and he ended up coming back anyway.
Yeah, but you've heard the stories.
What happened to Durrell when he left? Yeah, he was never seen again for like 3 years, wasn't he?
Yeah, well, he did sign with 50 Cent. There's no even less idea what he's doing in boxing.
It was Gamboa gone with now. He went with someone like some really random.
He's with Caribe or something, isn't he? One of those ones.
It's not even Caribe. It's someone based in Spain. What are they called?
Well, Gamboa's just pissed his career away, hasn't he? I mean, at least Garcia's fighting on telly. Like Gamboa's not even fighting. But anyway, let's get out of the rabbit hole on that one. Obviously, Garcia's a shitbag for that fight. I've got a couple more questions before we get onto the big Jurgen's preview. I'm trying to get through the entire show without mentioning Bremer's opponent. Right, now here's a good one, Dewey, for you. A general question. This is from Nick Garber, who says, who has gone furthest in the sport with the least amount of punching power?
Being Welsh.
Cleverly.
Who's champion of the world. Yeah, Nathan's not the biggest puncher. I'd say Paulie Malignaggi was probably the most well-known example of that.
Nah, Paulie
No
hits like
real
a
thing
train.
at
He
all.
just chooses to take people to points.
Well, I mean, Paulie's won titles in what 2 weight classes, hasn't he? And his knockout percentage is like below 20%. But
He
sorry,
did stop Zinchenko.
Yeah,
well, exactly. Yeah, exactly. He
Yeah,
did. He has
Malignaggi
knocked out world champions before. He has done that.
Malignaggi stopped like 6 of his first 7, did he not? And then he got like fucking.
Do you reckon his first promoter must have thought, "Fucking hell, I got a puncher on my hands here"?
Oh no, that's it.
It was hand problems. Genuinely, his hand
Yeah.
like just gave in. Yeah.
He
know
knocked
what,
out
though?
his 3
People
first
who
opponents, and he's got 4 knockouts since.
Yeah.
But
Dewey,
yeah,
sorry,
people who watch
did you say Barry Jones at the beginning of your answer or not?
Yeah.
You did. Sorry, it cut out for me. I didn't hear it. But yeah, so anyone who missed it,
Kerry Hope.
Barry Jones won a world title and never scored a single knockout in his career. But he did knock Freitas down, which counts for something, I suppose.
Kerry Hope.
Rocked him
Got
to
European
yeah,
title.
there's quite a few Welshmen because obviously Kerry Hope, when he beat Proska, which was a very good win at the time, he only had one knockout one knockout win on his record, and he's only added one more since. Barry Jones didn't score a knockout in his whole career, but he still became champion of the world. Nathan's not the biggest puncher, and one of the biggest misconceptions is people who watch like Joe Kozlagi's last 10, 15 fights think he wasn't a puncher, but it's just his hands couldn't hold up to his power. If you go back to Joe's early fight, he only won the world title, and he dropped you back with that punch. That was a
didn't he, in the first round? Yeah.
Yeah, that was an absolute thump. And if you go back and watch his early fights, especially in the amateurs, there's a fight when he fought Dean Francis, and Dean Francis, Carp, you'll know, was massively high rated amateur. Fought for England a lot of times. He's been groomed to go to the Olympic one. And when he turned pro, really highly thought of. It never quite worked because of injuries and different things. Joe fought him in the amateurs and absolutely sparked him cold. And he stopped Glenn Catley as well, who obviously became a world champion. I swear I'm not just digging out Bristol boxers here. But yeah, Joe was a massive puncher. And in his last,
I'm going to clip you next time I see you.
Sorry, mate. In his last 10, 15 fights, his hands just, his hands, his wrists, his fingers, it all started falling of why he retired in the end.
I'd say Edwin Valero, he couldn't punch whatsoever.
Yeah, he always went to points. Valero's the master boxer. I've got a few others. They're not quite as good as Barry Jones, but we've got Corey Spinks was one that I thought of. 47 fights, 11 knockouts. I think almost all of those were in his first 15. He didn't win a fight by TKO. Yeah, past ever at world level, basically. Just couldn't really punch at all. Another one was where was he? Well, I suppose people will say Camacho, who's probably my favourite fighter ever. Camacho actually could punch when he was down at featherweight. When he started out, he won the NABO title with a first round knockout, which is against a guy called John Montez in Alaska. It's a fucking great fight. It's on YouTube. Camacho comes to the ring wearing a parka. It's fucking brilliant. Like the coolest guy. I think he was like 18 or something. But he won, and then he knocked out. I think he knocked out Limon or whoever it was in Puerto Rico to win the belt. But then once he went up to lightweight and welterweight, he just had absolutely no power at all. And so by the time he was fighting, De La Hoya and Trinidad and Chavez and all the rest of them, absolutely no power at those weights at all. I guess a bit like Floyd, who really lost all his power once he got up.
That with Floyd was a mixture of his hands being fucked and him fighting well above the weight he should have been at, I think.
Yeah, it's the same with Pacquiao, isn't it? Pacquiao is still a huge puncher. Given his size.
Maybe other reasons for Manny as well. Maybe other reasons for Manny.
Not when he was at the smaller weights, though.
No, but I mean, it was like he smashed Cotto, didn't he?
Yeah, but he didn't knock him down. Or he didn't knock him out.
Well, he did knock him out.
No, but like not on the floor, like flat on his back.
He knocked him down heavily twice and then had him run.
He knocked Bradley down loads of times, but Bradley got up in it. It's more the speed that's hitting him, I think, not the power.
Sent Hatton to a grave he'd never seen before or after until he met his dad in that car park.
Well, Ray Hatton is one of the biggest pound for pound punch.
But again, that's just one of them shots. If it catches you the way that caught Hatton, you're going to get knocked out, even if Paulie throws it. I think.
Yeah. But Shep, it's just reminded me of something that happened on Saturday. You should be told. Hatton, when he walked in the hotel, someone shouted Ray Hatton TBE, but I can't remember who it was.
Yeah.
And he didn't hit it, but it was a nice little moment.
I'm trying to think of any heavyweights that really couldn't punch. Maybe someone like Chris Bird, although he did get a few knockouts, but never really at world level. I think you have to look at the guys who, as soon as they go above sort of domestic level, just the knockouts stop completely. It's very rare to meet someone who cannot punch at any level who goes all the way up. Yeah,
you know, one example of that, I used to think Carl Froch wasn't a big puncher because he beat Pascal in his first world title fight. Obviously, no shame at all in going distance. And then he stopped Taylor in his next fight, but that was more fatigue. And then he must have gone about 3 or 4 years without stopping anyone until the Butte fight. And again, that wasn't like a power punch. That was just more accumulation, I thought. So I was never convinced by his power, even though he iced Yusuf Mack with a brutal body shot. Until the George Groves fight, and he obviously, the second fight, and he sparked him out with one punch.
I think you have to look at the opponents, don't you, in a situation like that? Like, he was fighting guys like, Jermaine Taylor was a bit flaky, but he was fighting guys like Abraham, never been knocked out, or been knocked out once, but it was a weird TKO on an eye injury. He was fighting Andre Ward, never been knocked out. Pacquiao as well. Kessler never been knocked. Well, no, Kessler was stopped, wasn't he? But it wasn't against Ward, but it wasn't a KO, was it? It was a
technical decision, wasn't it?
Doctor stoppage. Yeah. The son of
Glenn Johnson as well, who was very tough to stop.
Yeah, Glenn Johnson went like I think we talked about this on a previous pod. He went like over 20 years without getting knocked out. Guys like Hopkins, those guys just don't get knocked out by anyone. It doesn't matter, who they're fighting.
Black don't crack, innit?
They're really good examples. It was when I remember reading a debate in the run up to the Pacquiao Mayweather fight last year when people were just saying how one idiot was saying how it was going to be boring because neither of them could punch, and then when people said, "What do you mean?" he went, "Oh well, just look at their records. Neither guy's had a knockout in like 2 years." And someone went through the list of their mutual opponents in that time. Whoever's opened a fucking suite, can they mute themselves, please? No, stop it, Ainsley. Fuck's sake. He opened like a boiled sweet or something as I was talking. Anyway, Mayweather and Pacquiao, and we looked through the mutual opponents, and it was guys like Mosley, never been stopped. Marquez, never been stopped. Margarito, never been stopped, apart from when he was like 15. All these sort of guys who just don't get knocked out, and you do get that at the very top level, which is why someone like Kovalev really just wrecking Pascal. That was so impressive because Pascal's always been a guy who's incredibly durable, and I guess it's more Pascal's age. But Pascal in his prime, no one was going to stop him. Like you might outbox him, you might beat him on points, but you're not going to knock him out. There are a lot of fighters like that, and people don't really seem to appreciate that. They look at they think people's power's dropped off, but really it's more a case of the level goes up so much. And I remember Paulie always used to say about Broner, when people said Broner, the knockouts ran out when Broner went up to world level. And Paulie went, no, honestly, like Broner can punch really hard. It's just that he's now fighting guys, who've all got really good chins. You don't get to the top level if you have, or it's incredibly rare to get to the top level if you have
That's what happened to Kevin Johnson when he finally stepped up to Femi level and got iced.
Well, I think that, I mean, Johnson had been very active going into that fight, hadn't he? What, three fights in 6
He
years?
beat that bloke at the crowd in Geordie Raw, didn't he?
Oh, yeah, when he had that. Guys, I've thought of one more example, which is we forgot, that Cuenca, who had like 2 KOs in 50 fights or whatever, and did, in theory, win a world title, although it wasn't really a world belt.
Yeah, but...
Right, I've just done an image search for Cleverly versus Bramer, and Cleverly versus Fonfara. I'm looking through the results. I don't remember. I think I watched it on a dodgy stream, so I don't remember how badly Cleverly's face was damaged. But it, hopefully that won't. Sorry, Dewey. Yeah, go on.
Just you saying it's funny. You should mention the state of Nathan's face at the end of the fight. I'm doing monthly column for the British Boxers website, and I've written the first half of it is about Nathan's injuries in that fight. I'm telling you, everyone quite obviously will think of the nose and think that but it wasn't. The Nathan's ear, I think it was his left ear, was horrific. I've never seen anything like that. It had to be drained on 3 separate occasions on the night of the fight and twice when he came back to the UK. They were worried he wouldn't be allowed on the plane because of sport photo. I can remember Anthony leaving press came to collect me to take me backstage, and he said, "No, he's all right, but don't take any photos." And I thought, okay, he maybe Nathan's just being a bit vain. But when I saw him in the changing room, I couldn't believe it. His forehead, his lips were massive. Everything, his face was so swollen, you would have to see it to believe it. And,
did it look like that Kelly Maloney photo after the face-off?
Not quite that bad, but genuinely, it's the worst I've seen in person. And I think everyone obviously think that's where the most blood was coming from, but that was probably the least, the worries, in the changing room after the fight. He was okay, not in loads of pain, just because of adrenaline but probably just because his face was so numb. But the swelling was unbelievable.
Yeah, because his nose went quite early in that fight, didn't it? Like in the mid
rounds.
Yeah, not a nice injury at all. But let's get onto it then, because obviously the main fight this weekend is Cleverly travelling to Germany to fight Jürgen Bremer. It's WBA regular, isn't it? Light heavyweight. Really, I suppose we'll leave you to do the proper preview, but I guess it's a kind of, I don't know if you call it a crossroads, but it's really it's a can't lose for both guys, isn't it? I mean, Bremer would look like a fucking idiot if he lost this fight after having never fought a decent opponent for like the last decade. His whole career would look like a bit of a joke if the first decent guy who goes over there just beats him. But equally, Cleverly, I don't know, can he afford another loss in a big fight like this? Yeah, you go for it, mate, because you're obviously flying out. So how do you see it going?
I think body language plays a humongous part in how this fight is scored. And what Bremer likes to do is usually fence for the first 2 minutes of a round, and then jump in with a quick 1-2 for the ref to reset a few more quick bursts until the final bell. When they're in that fence, Nathan's body language is very positive. It has to convince the judges that he's being first to the punch, and they're not fighting at Bremer's pace. And then when Bremer goes for it towards the end of the round, Nathan's got to match him. Style-wise, they're almost the polar opposites, aren't they? Nathan's quite tall for a lighter heavyweight, very aggressive, good on the inside, where Bremer's, and obviously an orthodox fighter, where Bremer's a southpaw, not very good up close, quite slow-paced, and he likes to hold. And obviously, the southpaw stance, most of his work comes off his backhand. Style-wise, they could gel really, really well. Nathan's got to close the distance, but I think he learned in the Funfara fight you don't need to go a million miles an hour. You can pick your spots in the rounds and do it. And when he's fencing with Bremer, like I say, I think he's just got a very positive body language, because there's one thing, when you look at fighters who've gone to Germany, there's something about, like Martin Murray, for example, his body language against Abraham never convinced you that he was in control. When for large parts of the rounds, he pretty much was in control. I think there's usually a certain point in German fights where the German fighters know they've got you, and it doesn't matter what you do from that stage, because they've banked enough early rounds. So I think also Martin Bremer is massive must do for Nathan. You look at Bremer's fights, he's faded throughout his career. He's faded so badly in the second half of the fight. I can remember years ago, it might have been his first world title defense when he fought Sikorsky, and he should have been stopped in the 10th round. There was one stage where he must have taken about 30, they didn't all land, but Sikorsky must have thrown about 30 unanswered punches, had Bremer terribly hurt against the ropes, and Sikorsky was only 14-0 at the time. And Bremer was cut from a punch. then the referee stops the action when he's at his most vulnerable, when he should be stopping it to end the fight, takes Bramer to a doctor to inspect the cut. If the cut's from a punch, then I don't think you should inspect it. You should end the fight. Because, you know, if it's bad enough to inspect, it should be bad enough to stop. But yeah, that's, you know, I won't pick apart each individual fight, but just that's an example years ago where he faded. And I can remember, what was it, 2003? And he was holding on for dear life at the end of that fight. Did a lot better when they rematched earlier this year in March. But Gutsnek took that on like 4 weeks. This one read too much into that. The performance where I can think where he didn't start fast was Krasniki, where I thought he's as a bit of a change for him. He started quite slow. I thought Krasniki had a lot of success before Bramer came back and busted him up, and he stopped him. I think it was a cut either inside the mouth or on the lips. But you know, traditionally Bramer tends to start quite fast, quite nippy, and fade the further the fight goes, which again, that's the opposite of Nathan. Nathan, Funfara fight, his side is known for coming on, and obviously the Bellew mess in the rematch. Nathan's known for coming on strong in the second half of fights. So, you know, stylistically, they really match up well. I know Bramer is obviously going to want a rematch if he loses. And I think if he lost, well, saying that, if he did lose conclusively, he's 38 years old at the end of this month. At the start of October. Would he really want to go through that again? I'm not sure. It's, you know, it's a really interesting fight in there because there's a lot of unanswered questions.
I can't be asked with Bramer. He winds me up. Like,
it's weird, isn't it? 'Cause you look at Bramer's records, and I don't think his record does his talent justice. And it's quite, you know, it's also weird, I find, how he's ranked. If you look at like the independent rankings of every major magazine, they've got him in the top 5. Where I'm not sure what you base that on in terms of wins, but I suppose, is there a level of where, you know, longevity and comes into it? I don't know.
no,
I don't want to, you know, I still think it'd be a really good win for Nathan if he won. And when you're this year, if Nathan goes to Germany and beats Bramer by any method in 2016, what other big wins have Brits had apart from Carl Frampton's?
I think it would definitely be a career best win for Cleverly, wouldn't it? I think.
Yeah,
it would be.
100%.
Do you think there could be any lasting effects of the Fonfara fight with Cleverly?
There definitely could. Of course, there could be.
He hasn't fought since, has he?
Yeah, he's been willing to fight. He agreed to fight Andre Ward twice. In the summer, Andre Ward's side messed about with money. I was quite angry about that as well because I later saw an interview with Virgil Hunter where he said Nathan pulled out the fight, which couldn't be further from the truth. But genuinely, I know a lot of fighters say it, but you know, I've spoken to Nathan privately about it, and there's not a light heavyweight he wouldn't fight. He doesn't want to sell himself short. You know, fight, you know, for 30 grand or whatever it was. He's obviously not going to do that. Given, you know, a deal and notice, he genuinely will fight anyway. He hasn't got to protect. He hasn't got an undefeated record to protect. And really, what else is it? Is there any point in him fighting for European titles or British titles? No, he's here now. I know he's only 29, but he's been a pro 11 years, so there's little point in fighting anyone else.
He
not
reached
world class.
his level quite young, didn't he? I mean, he got. You could say he got his belt before he was really ready for it, I suppose. And had a pretty poor run of opponents when he had the WBO belt. But he must have been sort of 22, 23 when he originally won it. So he was pretty young, right? Maybe even younger than that, actually.
Yeah, 24.
24, yes. So it's pretty young for a world champ, especially in those divisions.
the thing with Bramer is, though, he's had 50 fights. So he's had one fight in Hungary, and the rest have all been in Germany. So that sort of that paints a picture for me. But
and also, Cleverly is again. I'm trying to be sort of diplomatic because I think it's a decent fight. It's not a great fight. I don't consider Bramer a real world champion, although it would be a really good win if Cleverly went over and beat him. But Cleverly, it would be Bramer's best opponent for at least sort of 7 or 8 years, right? If you look at some of the guys,
Really, isn't it? To Gary.
Yeah, exactly. When was Gary? Like 2008 or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. So I do think guys become part of the furniture, don't they? And it's a bit like with Chris John when he was down at where was it, lightweight or whatever, and everyone just like had him at the top of the rankings because they were like, well, he's had a belt for like 7 years, so he must be. You just kind of forget how much these guys can just sort of go on in the background fighting nobodies. Also, for anyone, I think Carpy made a really good point there. My theory on this fight is that I think Fonfara and Cleverly might have punched the prime out of each other, because we've seen Fonfara lose in a round in the fight after the Cleverly. And I know that could just be an anomaly, but Fonfara lost badly in his next fight out. And I'm looking at the CompuBox stats again for the Fonfara-Cleverly fight. If anyone hasn't watched it, check it out before the weekend, because it was a great fight. Fonfara threw over 1,400 punches, which is insane. And Cleverly threw over 1,100, which is also incredibly high. And they both landed. They both landed over 450. And yeah, these aren't flyweights. These are light heavyweights. So big guys. The idea of a light heavyweight throwing almost 1,500 punches is insane. So you can see why Cleverly's face looked the way it did at the end of the fight. And you really do think like it was such a huge effort from both men, whether it will have taken something out of them. And like Dewey said, Cleverly's not old, but he has had some hard fights over the last few years. So it'll be interesting to see.
I'll tell you what, I'm not going.
Agogo's fighting on it.
Agogo's got Canelo, hasn't he, next year?
Good as Terry.
That was a good rumour.
Where the fuck did Terry get that from, the nonce?
Oh, sorry, Dewey, I cut you off there, mate. What were you saying?
I was about to tell you what the main fight is on in the card, but I really don't remember the fella's name. He's quite high up in the rankings. Oh, it's this Enrico Coiling, 21-1 fight. WBO wins. I assume this WBO will make another all-German fight. Bramer's fought since he's fighting Enzo Macronelli in 2014. Bramer's like 6 Germans on the spin. And Germany's quite an insular country in the sense that they only speak German there. And when I was in Berlin in January, and it was when Fiegbergs was fighting the rematch against D. Carolis, like pages upon pages in the papers the day of and the day after the fight. So I think they do quite good business. It's obviously economically, that country's thriving. They have good TV deals with the promoters have deals. They have no incentive a lot of the time to look out, outwards. To be honest, I'm surprised that they've taken some fight, because when they offered it was offered before Nathan fought Fonfara, and I suspected that they thought Nathan was gone to watch Bellew fight. So when they've seen him fight Fonfara, which was a right old ding dong, I'm surprised they've still taken that fight for Renzo. He's fought an extremely low risk opposition.
I agree with you. I think after maybe, I don't know if you could call it a career best performance, but a career best effort from Cleverly, I'd say, in the Fonfara fight. It does seem like a bit too high a risk for Bramer given his track record. But I know what you mean. I thought when they made Cleverly Fonfara, it was a cash out and Cleverly would get knocked out quite badly. Obviously, you said earlier, Dewey, he got offered a lot of money to go over there. As Halling would say, but I feel like is Cleverly approaching this as his kind of last stand, as it were? Like, I mean, if he loses this, it's unlikely he'd get another title shot, isn't it?
Yeah, then it comes down to motivation, because Eddie Hearn's not good. All year we've been waiting for Eddie to put him in a big fight, and Eddie's been looking to put him as an opponent for other promoters. I'm not saying he doesn't. But he's not going to play alphabet soup like you see guys like they had Brian Rose climb the rankings, winning an belt or whatever it was against Joaquim Alcine, and then fighting an eliminator and a final eliminator. It's quite obvious that he doesn't want to do that with Nathan, because it'll probably cost him more than he'll make back. where they can put him on a promoter's. One sec, fellas. Just gonna kill my missus.
All right. Well, while he's doing that, Cash Ali.
All right,
Cash Ali's fighting on Saturday.
Who's fighting?
against Dorian Dutch.
No, he's not. He's fighting Harry Miles.
Oh, that's it. Sorry, Harry Miles.
There's another fight this weekend, isn't there?
Yeah, Cash Ali. TBE.
No, there's a like a. Oh, it's Joseph Parker. That's it. Yeah.
Sky have picked it up.
Yeah, Parker against what's his face?
Dmitrienko.
Dimitrenko.
Dimitrenko, right? And I don't care about the fight. I think Parker should knock him out in the late rounds, probably. Although Dimitrenko's a pretty big old lump, isn't he? But Dimitrenko is responsible for one of the funniest single sort of business decisions I've ever heard from a boxer. Do you remember when he was? Was it earlier this year, or maybe it was last year? He was offered a fight on HBO against Ortiz, I think. Dimitrenko, and he took it, or he agreed to it, on the condition that he would get a percentage of his purse up front, and that would be non-refundable if he pulled out of the fight. Genuinely said that. And HBO, apparently, the story is that HBO laughed him out of the room and said, "Are you being serious?" And he was being completely serious, and they went, "Yeah, you're not coming on our network." So this is a guy who's about as unprofessional as it is possible to get. I think this is definitely a cash grab, cash out for Dimitrenko, who's well past his best.
I don't give a fuck if you get beat. If you get beat in Germany by Eddie Chambers, you are shit.
And that was when he was in his prime as well.
Yeah.
And Chambers cool. Chambers didn't just beat him; he absolutely took him to school.
Yeah, but he still only won a majority decision. But this is what I mean. In 2009, he's like the height of when Germany were just robbing every cunt, and he still couldn't fucking get a robbery over Eddie Chambers. Obviously, Eddie Chambers gets robbed every time he fights.
Exactly, and this was they were looking for any excuse to give that fight to Dimitrenko, and they still couldn't. He's a bit of a joke, to be honest. He's pulled out of so many fights, and he's kind of, wasn't he signed to fight? I feel like he was signed to fight Hay at one point or something, and then it got cancelled or whatever.
Yeah, he supposed to? Yeah. Oh no, he cut Hay in sparring, didn't he? That's the guy.
Was that it? And he was. I'm sure he was signed to fight someone in the States, in America.
He was signed to fight Shannon Briggs, wasn't? Oh, they announced he was fighting Shannon Briggs on the Hay undercard.
And then he pulled out of it or whatever.
He didn't know anything about it.
Yeah, the guys that he has fought, Dimitrenko's fought since he lost to Chambers is mental. He fought Zavarotny, who was 14-4, Sosnovsky, who's 46-3, who everyone knows about, Sprott, who was 36-16. Then he got iced by Pulev.
And Sprott gave him quite a tough fight, if I remember rightly.
Yeah, he did. And then he got iced by Pulev, fought a guy who was 11-3, a guy who was 19-18. Then it gets worse. A guy who was 3-13, a guy 8-2, a guy who was 2-18, a guy who was 11-4. In 7 years, he has fought he's basically fought Anthony Joshua opponents in the past 7 years.
Yeah, but he's not a prospect. This was supposed to be like his prime,
Well, yeah, he's had 40 fights. He's had.
He's a waster, really. And he didn't. The funny thing about him is he didn't look that terrible when he was coming up. He didn't look amazing, but he looked like he had some skills on the way up. And then it just seems to have completely plateaued. And
he's not really got a signature win, to be fair.
No, and he's been brought over to get knocked out by Parker, hasn't he? Does anyone see this going any differently, or do we think it goes the distance, or what?
Might go the distance if Parker's trying to protect himself from not getting caught if he's going to fight AJ in 5 weeks.
Well, yeah. Do we think that happens? Assuming Parker wins, do we think that he will find to fight AJ? Because I still don't. I can't see that happening this year.
I would say that's the most likely of the names mentioned. I don't necessarily think that will be the one, but if the names will be mentioned, he's the most likely. If you know what I'm saying.
The other one that was who's the other one? Yeah, Eddie Hearn started mentioning Jarrell Miller recently, and I don't like the sound.
It's not going to be him. I don't think there's promotional issues.
But he's a Heyman guy, isn't he? And they might
no.
kick him out.
He's not. He's Dimitri Salita.
He's fucked Salita off.
Really?
Is he?
He's fucked Salita off. Yeah, and there's a lot of shit kicking off about it. So watch this space. I think he might fight Cash Ali, to be honest. I think if Cash Ali does Harry Miles inside 3 or 4 rounds, I reckon he's going to get the call up for it.
Why can't we bring the fridge back?
It's been banned because he's too good.
Would we want? I'd love to see David Price get sent out to New Zealand to get iced. That'd be amazing.
I just want to see him get. I want to see him get beat off a bum.
Did Eddie Chambers get a point for the fridge? He did, didn't he?
Yeah. Oh wait, did he? Let's have a look. Eddie Chambers. Forgot that he fought the fridge. That's how bad it is. Honestly, I reckon I'd beat Chambers now. Colbert. Oh no, he retired.
Oh, he
The
retired.
fridge
The
allowed
fridge.
him to retire.
Yeah. Who did he got a point
Who
for?
else did he fight when he was on like his bum of the month?
Fucking hell. It's all right. He got beat off Matrunu, then he fought. Fucking hell. I didn't realise it was this bad.
Did he fight Dorian Dutch?
Right, yeah. So I'll just go through the opponents. So these, when he were in the UK, he fought some guy called Mazarek, who was 9-45. Then he fought Moses Matovu, who was 5-39. Then he fought the Fridge, Cole Baker, woo. Then he fought Nascimento, who everyone's iced, and he managed to get taken to points.
That's bad. If you're going to points. That Nascimento is awful.
Then he fought Dorian Dotch. Then he went back to America, fought Galen Brown, whoever he is. Then got beat off Gerald Washington. And Gerald Washington is fucking terrible. You know what? He's my outside pick for the Joshua fight, to be fair.
Right, well, there you go. You heard it here first. So Dewey, I've got a couple more. Let's forget Parker for a minute because I'm not really interested. It's a showcase really for him. But Cleverly Bramer, Dewey, do you think there's a chance that the ear injury or the nose injury or anything like that those will flare up again? I mean, have they been holding up in sparring? I imagine the ear could be like that. Could be a sort of a real weakness in the future.
To my knowledge, they've both been okay. It's nearly, by the time Nathan fights, it'll be 50 weeks since he's not healed now. He never will be. I don't expect those injuries to play a part, to be honest. Or he might. Don't get me wrong, he might injure his nose, but I don't think it'll be as a result of any lasting effects.
Yeah, it won't be the old wound reopening. Yeah, no, I see what you mean. Can I ask about his training situation as well? Because obviously he's had a bit of, I suppose, issues with trainers in the past with his dad, and then with that strength and conditioning guy and all the rest of it. Yeah,
he's still with Darren. Everyone thinks Darren's a strength and conditioning guy because he was brought in to do that side of Nathan's training in about 2010 or 2011. But Darren's a former amateur boxing, fought in Welsh championships and the like. Nothing special. Don't get me wrong. But that it's not as if Darren's literally.
But he has got a background in boxing. No, I see what you mean.
And he started training a journeyman called Fred Janes. And then worked with Jason Cook, European champion, Jamie Arthur, Commonwealth champion, challenged for a British title a couple of times. But yeah, he was brought in originally to do the strength and conditioning side.
Are the rumours about Cleverly's dad true?
What's that?
That he sells Avon.
Clear more than I have no knowledge if he sells Avon or not.
He looks the type, to be honest.
He does look the type.
Do you know this whole Avon joke? I don't even know what it is.
Neither do I.
It's a hangover. It's a hangover from Brian's time. But, we'll tweet out that Ned's dad sells Avon. But yeah, so Vince, his name's Vince, isn't he, the dad?
Yeah.
He is still involved, isn't he, in some capacity?
No.
Not at all. I thought I saw him in the corner in one of the recent fights.
No. That might have been Alan Smith. In the Bellew fight, Nathan had Alan Smith from the iBox gym in London wrap his hands. So Alan did he was in the corner, literally just, passing the bucket. He might have done Nathan's cuts for that fight as well. But he's short and bald and fairly old, so maybe that's why.
Oh, so his dad isn't involved at all anymore? No. Okay. So right, well, one thing left to do then, I guess. It's been a good show, but we've got to get predictions. Dewey, we'll save you till last. Ainsley, what are your predictions for Parker and for Cleverly?
Cleverly points. Parker points, or maybe like a shitty like corner retirement for Dimitrenko. I'm not sure. I don't know if he'll chin him.
I can see Dimitrenko quitting, to be honest.
I don't think he'll like if it stops inside the rounds, it won't be like Parker icing him. It'll just be a quit job sort of thing after he's put in an average effort.
Yeah, the bare minimum effort to get paid, and then he'll fuck off. Carpy, what do you think?
Parker should stop him. You'd really hope he should stop him anyway. And Bramer and Cleverly. I think Bramer will get it on points.
Do you reckon they'll get AJ to do commentary for Parker? I was just thinking, or do you reckon he'll be in the studio maybe? I don't know.
Was he in the studio last time?
No, it was White, wasn't it? Dillian White was saying that he'd beat him, not a problem.
Oh, yeah. And then he goes the distance with Dave Allen, who's got the Joshua fight, by the way. If you want the exclusive announcement that Dave Allen versus Joshua has been signed for November, then head to our YouTube page. So you think Bramer points? I agree with you. I think it will be a very close fight, and I just see Bramer getting the benefit of the doubt. In a sort of a fight that could have gone either way, really. I can see Bramer getting it.
It's not a fight I really care about at all, to be honest. I've seen a lot of people getting excited for it on Twitter, and I just don't care about it.
I wouldn't say I was excited for it. I'm interested to see what happens. Do you know what I mean? Rather than being sort of.
I'll watch it because I'm sad, and I'll watch most boxing this on. But
I want Bramer to get bumped off though. I want him he's another one I could do. We just get him rid of.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't like Bramer either. He's like a European champion of the world.
I reckon Cleverly would just fight some cunt. He says obviously like Bramer's saying, "Oh, I want to fight Kovalev." He won't fight Kovalev while he's got an all in his arse.
No chance.
Hopefully, it will be a good fight though. I do think their styles might gel quite well.
Cleverly's generally in good fights unless he's fighting Bellew.
It's always the fights you don't look forward to that end up surprising you anyway, I find.
Yeah.
Like Fonfara and what's his name, Joe Smith. I wasn't looking forward to that either, but that turned into be a good round fight.
What, 2 minutes?
Yeah, but like ones like that, innit, where you just think, can't be asked for that, and you watch it and you get pleasantly surprised.
I thought that was a total mismatch the other way. I'd seen Smith.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Didn't look very good at all. Like
I don't feel comfortable with people called Smith getting big wins. To be honest.
It is bad.
Yeah.
He could be related to the arm. Right, Dewey.
Legitimate son.
Dewey, just to finish off, let's get your prediction on Parker, and then you can do the big one. I don't know if you're going to make a prediction for it, but go ahead.
Parker, I think, will stop Dimitrenko. I wouldn't be surprised if he went down and sort of, where they get up extremely slowly because they're hoping the ref will stop it. Either that, or he'll retire in the corner and claim an injury of some sort. I do expect Parker to win that in the distance. I think there was absolutely no shame in going to the rounds with Takam. I think Parker would be a bit disappointed if he didn't get Dimitrenko out of there, though. But Dimitrenko must be the. I'm not an expert on Joseph Parker. I just know his obvious fights, but he must be the tallest fighter Parker's faced. Yeah. So it'll be interesting. You can see by that sense. Obviously, he's nowhere near the level of Joshua, but you can see from that sense why they would take it.
Yeah, hope he'd learn some stuff by fighting a taller guy.
He could punch a bit though, Dimitrenko, and he's long, so you've got to sort of. If he does decide if he wants to have a few rounds.
I just think Dimitrenko's got one of the worst attitudes, when it comes to boxing. I just think he'll quit. He'll quit as soon as there's any trouble. As soon as he's got an excuse, he'll want to quit. But yeah, Dewey. So finish us off. Is Big Nathan gonna do it?
Big Nathan. I think Nathan wins on points. Do you know where you guess what you'll give it? I think I'll give it 8 rounds to 4. It might be closer than that in the cards. I just think
that's the thing. I mean,
yeah. Well, I think that to be honest, I've never watched the Bramer fight though, and thought apart from that one with the referee against Zakowski in 2009, I've never watched the Bramer fight and thought the scorecards were horrific.
Yeah, I know what you mean. He's not quite Sven Otka levels, is he?
Yeah, I think the scorecards are usually okay. They might favour him by 1 or 2 rounds more than they should. I've
just got a horrible feeling it's going to be a a lot of close rounds, and he'll get the benefit of the doubt. But so we're okay. That's interesting. So we're 2-2 for Cleverly and Bramer. So two of us will look like idiots next week. And just like to thank you guys for hopping on and to just say how pleased we are with the signing of Press Pass, who was offered a new contract by the Asylum but turned it down. Said he felt we had more ambition, and we were a pod that was really going places.
Having met Press Pass over the weekend, I would like to add he's actually not a cunt. People should lay off him. He's actually quite a nice guy.
People,
it's surprising. I have to admit, it's surprising.
You insulted him.
Nice
like, you're the one who insulted him earlier.
Yeah, I know, and I'll continue to do so. But the people who've never met him, lay off him. Don't you fuck with my Paul David Webb.
I've got to be honest. Given that he predicted Linares to be outboxed by Crolla and Santa Cruz to outbox Frampton and Frankie Gavin, I really hope he's picking Bramer this week.
And he also said that DeMarco was beating Linares.
No, this is what I mean. Like, he is a prick.
Say some mental shit. Okay.
No, he is a prick, but he's like a nice prick, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, on Twitter, he comes across as like condescending and smug, but in the flesh, he's just a little bit smug and not condescending.
He's got a good heart. Yeah. Well, anyway, thanks very much for everyone who tuned in. And if we didn't get to your questions, apologies. I did try and get to as many as I could, but obviously we've only got so much time. Otherwise, we'll be back next week. I guess we'll review the Bramer Cleverly fight, but I don't think there's anything major for the first week of October. So get as many. What's happening then?
Liam Wolf on eliminator for the IBF super featherweight world.
Who's he fighting?
He's fighting the guys at Kilmore, who Crawford out and someone else could beat as well.
Klimov
lost twice in like.
Yeah, I know Klimov. Yeah,
it was Pedraza, wasn't it?
Yeah, and no, Klimov fought on HBO one other time as well. It wasn't Crawford; it was someone else. But
John Molina.
He did fight Crawford. He did fight Crawford.
Yeah, he fought Crawford, but then he fought one other time, I think. And then we've got Ricky Burns, actually. No, we have got Ricky Burns, and then Scotty Cardle, Britain's great champion. And Orlando Cruz on the Friday.
Get it.
RP choice. And yeah, not a lot else. Oh my God. I spoke too soon, guys. Juanma Lopez's return is that weekend. Amazing.
Fucking hell, what weight is he at now?
Well, he's fighting Wilfredo Vasquez, so I assume both of those two guys are horribly shot. Like, Juanma, this is going to sound like we're taking the piss, but Juanma could genuinely die. Like, if he keeps fighting, it's not an exaggeration. He's beyond shot. If anyone wants to see a guy who's just, I think he's lost his last 4 by KO, and each one has been a horrible one-shot face-down knockout. But anyway, we'll talk about that more next week. Thanks very much for joining us, everyone, and thanks, guys, for hopping on, and best of luck to Big Nath at the weekend.
Press Pass is a prick.
Peace out.
Love you, Press Pass.